Too low. Good morning. On behalf of the Vice Chancellor of Vitae University, I wish to warmly welcome you to the CV Writing Workshop, which is part of the Career Fair 2024 being organized by the Directorate of Career Planning and Counseling of Vitae University. Though the numbers here are not as expected, I'm so excited that you are here. As students, you may at one point in time be applying for either internships to gain professional experience, or you want to pursue graduate studies or permanent position in an organization. As part of the application process, you'll be required to submit a dossier including CV. These documents and others will serve as an important marketing tool that provide a self-portrait or advertisement, pointing out your strength, your skills, experiences to a potential employer. Ladies and gentlemen, an effective CV will provide an employer with an overview of who you are as a student or a young professional, what you know, and what you can do in relation to a position of interest. It can also provide information on the relevant skills you have, your traits and accomplishments you have attained at this point in your education. Therefore, the essence of your CV catch the eye of a prospective employer and secure an opportunity to express your interest verbally in a position. Because employers may have to sift through dozens of these documents for a particular position, it's important that your CV makes a strong first impression. And this is particularly important in today's competitive job market that you are all aware. When there is an advertisement for vacancy for one position, the number of prospective employees, applicants that apply will beat your imagination. If Ho Technical University is to apply for employment or vacancy for technicians, and one person will be taken, I can assure you that over 100 of applications will be received. And what do? We have to go through these applications, the CVs, because we cannot interview all the 100 plus applicants. So the ones that are able to project and market themselves very well through their CV are those who will be invited for interview. If you want to employ one person, you cannot invite 100 people for interview. That will be time wasting. So then other issues will have to come into bear in making sure that you will be shortlisted. And one of the critical documents that will be assessed by the panel before being invited for interview is your CV. And as you approach graduation, it's essential to have a well-crafted CV that will highlight your skills, your experience, and achievements. A good CV opens doors to job opportunities, internships, and graduate programs. And it is in the light of the foregoing that today's CV writing workshop is being organized. Over the next few hours, our knowledgeable and experienced resource person will guide you through the process of crafting an effective CV, and you will learn how to highlight your strengths and achievements, how to tailor your CV to specific job applications, among others. It is my expectation that by the end of today's workshop, you will have a firm understanding of what makes an effective CV and the skills to create your own CV. You'll be one step closer to achieving your career goals as well as being employable. Ladies and gentlemen, let me use this opportunity to express the university's profound gratitude to the Education Collaborative for supporting Ho Technical University to organize this maiden career fair. I also wish to commend the Directorate of Career Planning and Counseling for organizing this important event, and the entire staff. I know that the directorate is made up of a one-man, two-woman directorate, but you have been able to put this program together. That's the reason why we expect students to fully participate in this program, because the ultimate goal is to enhance your employability skills. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's start, and I wish all of you the best as you embark on this journey to create a CV that showcases your talent and open doors to new opportunities. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Pro Vice Chancellor. Yes, a reminder once again, you know how important this program is. So please encourage your colleagues to also attend. The number that we have here is not encouraging at all. We expect that as we go on, a lot of them will join us. Thank you. Yes, the resource person is here with us, but we want to introduce her in a special way. And to help us do that, please let's welcome Miss Esther Na Ajele, the manager for our very own VPFM, to introduce the facilitator. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you all. Oh, are you there? Good morning. Our speaker for today, when I tell you about her, and she's even telling me she wants to do more. She wants to do more. Please give me a rapt attention to tell you more about her. Don't be bored, but be encouraged, because I'm so much encouraged and challenged as well. For one person to have all this and want to do more, then all of us, you and I, ought to be challenged. She's a distinguished HR professional with over 20 years experience in various fields, driving organizational success through strategic people management and talent development. For her dynamic leadership, innovative thinking, and dedication to foster positive work cultures have constantly yielded significant outcomes across diverse industries. Her expertise spans from talent management, strategic business partnering, and performance optimization. With a proven track record in reducing turnover rates and enhancing employee engagement, she excels at identifying, nurturing, and retaining top talent. Her strategic mindset aligns HR strategies with organizational goals, fostering operational excellence and sustainable growth. Her career is marked by successful design, implementation of training and development programs, closing skills gaps, and elevating staff competencies. Her commitment to employee relations and conflict resolution has nurtured harmonious work environments, driving collaboration and productivity. This is where I need your attention. She holds MBA in project management, a BSc in accountancy, HND in marketing, and currently pursuing MCIPD with Avado Learning Institute in UK and SPHRI in Cambridge Center of Excellence. She is an associate of CIPD UK, an executive qualification from UCLA, certified HR business partner, Global Academy of Finance and Management, associate member, IHRMP, certificate in diversity, Equity and Inclusion, University of South Florida. She also has certificate in corporate leadership, Pan-African Leadership Institute. Certified Human Resource Analyst from the Global Academy of Finance and Management. Another certificate in leadership and governance from the Institute of Cultural Diplomacy, Berlin, Germany. She's a human resource management advanced. She has a human resource advanced certificate from the Pan-African Leadership Management Institute. She also has another certificate in strategic management from the Institute of Commercial Management, UK. Certificate in governance and leadership from the Frederick Egberts Foundation Staffing, among others. Won't you clap for her? She alone. Thank you very much. She is also a fellow of the Global Academy of Finance and Management and a fellow of the L&D Africa. As a founder of HR Network Africa, she has nurtured a thriving community for HR practitioners, offering training and networking opportunities for professional growth. Her leadership extends beyond HR, having served in various roles, including HR director, she's a banker, a research analyst, insurance broker, a teacher, and a radio presenter. Madam, please. Oh, please give it to her. She deserves it. Madam, please, we have a radio station. So one of these days, we are going to invite you to come and use our studio to educate us. Myself, I want to learn from you. She's the country manager of BTL, Marketing Solutions, in charge of performance, sales, business development, people, and culture. A capacity she has been leading for almost 3 years by empowering brand and impacting life. Her business is a major leader in events, brand strategy, brand management, market activation, conferencing, and consumer engagement. She leads such partners across other African countries. So apart from all her certificates, she has led in all these companies. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you want to know the person behind all these achievements. Myself, I want to know her again. Are you ready for her? Are you ready for her? You want to be like her? Madam, please, I want to be like you. Please, I humbly introduce to you our intelligent role model, professional team player, and our beautiful lady, Miss Cynthia Maulawe Kudo. Shall we give it to her, please? Yeah, welcome, madam.
Hi everyone, good morning. And I am extremely shy. So Esther just tried to put a lot more shyness on my face, and I'm going to struggle through this. I'm excited to be here. This was home. I was telling the Pro Vice Chancellor that I was here a couple of years ago. I completed in 2005, I believe. So the Pro Vice Chancellor, the Director of Career Placement, all lecturers and very good friends, I'm excited to join you for your career fair to share thoughts on how best you can be the best candidate out there into the job market. And so if you will permit me, we will go into why we are here today. Now, I almost said to the Vice Chancellor, the Pro Vice Chancellor, that at this juncture, we probably can all close and go home because he gave a very great presentation in terms of what we wanted to discuss. And so with his kind permission, I would say that we can go home. We've closed, right. So my name is Cynthia Maulawe Kudo, as you've been told. And Esther, I worked in in the studios when I was on campus. So we did a lot of things called Frozen Emotions with the late Dr. Novieto. I did morning shows as well. And so I'm used to your studio. It would be just coming back home. So we get into why we're here. Now, I hope that it will be worth your time, because I've had the indication that you had to sacrifice your lectures to be here. As Esther read the bits and pieces of my life, I wish there was much more to it that I could tell. What she read is a fraction of my CV. Now, the surprise it put on your face, I normally would not give out my bio when they ask, because I'm too shy for those moments. But because we're here to talk about CV, that's the only reason why I obliged and shared a fraction of who I am and what I have done. As she read, the things that went through your mind are the very things that goes through our mind when you submit that piece of paper to us, suggesting that you are the most qualified candidate for any role that we put out there. My provocation to you as we start this session is, whatever it is you've scripted, is it able to get someone at the other side of the room to start considering you as the most ideal candidate to join their organization? If what you have on the paper does not excite you, then I can guarantee you that that job is not going to be yours, no matter what CGPA you have right here at Apetiland. So there's that important part where you need to make a conscious effort. I learned something very key at the University of California. We were told that who you are, your reputation precedes you. It is to say that before you walk into any room, people already have formed an imagination of who they think you are. And for employers, that only stems from the CV you have submitted to us, the cover letter that you have submitted, trying to tell us that you need this job and you must be considered for the job. That is what makes that significant impact. That tells us that this is a must listen to candidates. I tell you as a practitioner that there are interviews that before we start, we've already scaled through the papers we've received, and we know who we think can do the job. It is only because of what they've put out there. Now, as you go through town, whether here, Accra, Takoradi, wherever you're coming from, when you drive through town, organizations put up their own CVs, either on websites or on billboards. Your CV is your billboard to every organization. Your CV is what opens that door for you, for anyone to start considering you as a serious person. And so it is very important that of the many things you are doing, you take a moment, reflect on who you are, what you have done, and try to put thoughts that can sell you to any person out there. So as I said to you, you could have the greatest CGPA, you could be a first-class student, but if your CV is lower than a candidate that didn't even step in lectures, then all the work you did here doesn't make any sense. The investment your parents put in, the hustling, the days you ate gari and what have you, it won't make any sense, because it's going to take you 10 times more to try to land a good job. Now, what is a CV? So I just wanted to put together a few things that I thought we should cover whilst we are here together. So we'll look at what an effective self-serving CV should be. We'll look at how you need to actually apply those CVs that you craft. in the various places where jobs are available. I will touch briefly on how to prepare for your job interviews. I would also touch briefly on interview etiquettes. And then I would run you through how interview questions need to be handled. And we would look at a few things here and then, take some questions as we go along. Now, I believe that because of the insurgence of all the apps now, you all know what a CV is. And if I randomly called someone, you probably would describe what that is to me, right? Are we together? Do I have your attention? Are you sure I do? Please raise your right hand if I have your attention. Now, keep it up. Raise your left hand. No, you see, people don't listen to instructions. Raise your right hand. Keep it up. Raise the left. Keep it up. Now, put the two together. It's the only way I know you're listening to me. And I saw those who were not. So now, CV stands for Curriculum Vitae, as you know. If you are in this room and you don't worry. There are so many things that Marco Polo didn't know. He learned along the way. It's simply a document that helps you apply for a job. In essence, it allows you to summarize all your education, your skills, and relevant work experiences, which enables you to successfully sell your abilities to a prospective employer. And as I mentioned earlier, your CV is simply your signboard. Now, if you see a signboard, for example, of Telecel, sometimes without even getting close to it, you can tell that that's a Telecel signboard. True or not? True. Because there's some consistent pattern to what they do. It's the same with you. However, the difference between a CV and a signpost is that every time you need to craft a CV, it has to be tailor-made. It has to be tailor-made. It means that you cannot have a CV that is older than a year and think that it is a CV. That point, ladies and gentlemen, is just the project work I did, which is sitting on the archives somewhere in the library. It is not a CV. It's not going to sell you. I hope that is very clear. It's not going to sell you. It's just like an editorial from Daily Graphic dated 2020 when COVID was all over. Some blogger was talking about it. If your CV is that old, then you haven't understood the relevance of a CV. A CV is a living, breathing document. If you forget everything in this room today, do not forget that a CV is a living, breathing document. Now, why so? Every day of your life, you're doing something new. Whether you're a peer counselor, at some point you may join SRC, at some point you may join other professional organizations. So as you go along, that CV must grow with you. It must live the essence of life. So every time it needs to be updated. Do not ever have to send your CV to anyone without spending a moment to update or review it. It's an error. It's an error. If I asked you for a CV beginning of the year and you gave me a particular document, and then we are in August, I'm asking you, you are giving me the same document, it clearly tells the employer that you do not understand what a CV is. So please ensure that you always make sure that you get that very, very right. In other countries such as the US and Canada, CVs are normally referred to as resume. So in our classrooms where I had opportunities to study, we say resume. You won't hear them say CV. So when you travel and they're asking you for a resume, don't say that Cindy didn't say anything about resume, so I don't have it to give. Resume is equated to CV in some places. Technically speaking, resumes are educationally inclined documents you send, where you're trying to detail to the very last moment what grades you even had, trying to sell yourself to an academic community. However, in today's global world, in some spaces, CV is equal to resume. So do not say you left here without hearing that. Now, I have been talking about a particular person called CV. Mr. CV details that whatever it is you put in there makes sense to whoever is reading it. There are key things that must show necessarily on your CV. One of such is your name and your contact details. Now, at some point, documents are juggled here and there. The only way we can tell you apart from the next person is that it has a name that belongs to you. So when we are doing an assessment, we know that this is candidate A or candidate B. This is Ajwa, this is Esther, or this is Christopher. That is the only way we tell you apart. So we don't put CV as heading. Those were the 2000s, where you'd see someone has written curriculum vitae, very big font, because we wanted it to be clear. In today's world, nobody is putting that over there. We don't put resume, we don't put CV on top. Instead, you put your full name, which needs to show so that anyone who picks the document knows who it is coming from. You need to put an active number. We've had good occasions where you have an excellent candidate, but you are unable to contact them. So please, at any point in time when you change your number, ensure that you update same on the CV, because it makes a difference between when you get reached and when you don't get reached. I have had a near-miss situation before, so I'll share that quickly. Whilst I was taken on as management trainee when I finished Hope Poly at SIC, a friend was applying for jobs. She was going all over, and I didn't feel the need to even apply. But she was like, no, Cynthia, you never know. Life can just be some way. Long short, Gertrude printed what I called a CV on the letterhead of SIC. In fact, that's how bad it was. And sent it. She went to post it. Of the 10 of us, I was the only one called for the interview. I was fortunate. I went through the interview for Basel 2. It was a Bank of Ghana job in Barclays Bank. I thought I had the job. It sounded good. It was a done deal. But I waited. They told me 2 weeks maximum. A month had passed and I was following up and hearing nothing. I decided to be quite radical. So I walked to the HQ and I demanded to see the HR who had been on the panel that interviewed me. She had come from UK, Hilda. I demanded, they said, do you have an appointment? I said, yes. They said, how so? I said, if you speak to her, she'll tell you I have an appointment. It's called audacity. It doesn't always work. Be careful. So I had the opportunity of meeting her. She had been on leave. And she was like, Cynthia, which department are you in? I was like, you didn't even call me. Which department are we talking about? It turns out that someone had indicated in their receipt notebook that they could not reach me by the number I had submitted. A lot of politics goes on in the organization. You do not want to become a victim of that. And so though you apply when you step out there, please do follow up. I'll be dropping these nuggets as we go along because I've had to experience some of these things. And that's the only way it was overturned and I was admitted to work at Barclays Bank, Ghana then. If I had stayed home, that would have just been it. So ensure that whatever documents you have has the updated number that anyone can reach you. If you do have multiple numbers, please ensure to put it there. The time you have applied for the job is not when you decide to put off your phone. It's not when you decide that you're not buying data, because you may miss an important information for an interview. So I would urge you, whatever it takes within that period, please buy the data and ensure you wait for that prospective to call you. It is not when you want to watch TikTok and browse Instagram, then you put it on quickly, check, and then you put the data off. I know what a lot of people do. You will miss that golden opportunity. So please, invest into your future. One of the very key things we suggest you do is to have a LinkedIn account. Can I see how many people have LinkedIn accounts here? Wow. Please, ladies and gentlemen, every serious employer out there goes to your social handles today to decide if you are the candidate for the job. There's a joke that circulated a while ago, and I don't know if you had the chance of getting into it. A young man went to ECG for an interview. 2 years prior to that, for those of you who live in other places, I don't know about Ho today, but they used to just flick the lights on and off like that. Like, you can really get pissed. So this gentleman took the liberty of writing very unkind words about ECG and did put it, out there in social spaces. Now, when he applied for the job, like every technical institution, they went into his LinkedIn profile, went into his Instagram, and picked things he had done and written about. Of the many things he was famous for is his bashing of ECG. Now, as he sat in front of the panel, they projected the script he had written. How do you think he felt at that moment? If you were him, are you getting up to leave? At that moment, he didn't even know what to do. The late Ziga would say there was anus vibration. It was a typical thing here in Ho Technical at the time. So be careful what it is you are scripting there. You will think it's just you and your buddies having fun. It can come back and bite you. Because when we see that LinkedIn detail you've put there, we would click it, go into your bio, check all the things that you have done, because your LinkedIn account is the source of your CV. And so if you do have the account as well, and it's just become a signpost like the post that gives directions to my hometown, it hasn't been changed for, 50-something years, then it's also not going to sell you. You might as well not put it there. So please, when you leave here, for those who don't have LinkedIn account, kindly create it. It is free. It is free. They are not going to charge you for it. So please create a LinkedIn account. When you do create a LinkedIn account, ensure to put a professional picture over there. It is not Facebook. So don't go and put a picture of you kissing into the air. It's not Instagram. Don't go and put a picture of you and your boo. Somebody who sees it and not even employ you. Please. It's a headshot picture. A picture you're deliberate about. You take it, you put there. Anyone that sees it can see some professionalism in you and can see some seriousness in you. Ensure that you fill the details. It's been crafted such that it follows the same pattern of a CV. You're writing about the institutions you went to. You're writing about the places you've worked, the experiences you've had, things you are interested in, things you wish you can pursue. That is how international scouters find you. A lot of people don't apply for jobs anymore. International recruiters reach out to them through their LinkedIn because they put a CV out there and then they get jobs. I have a sister, the third after me. She's never applied for any job in her entire life. Never ever. Sam has never ever, because every time is a recommendation. Every time somebody goes into her LinkedIn, picks something. So she's doing consulting jobs across the globe, doing all manner of things, and she didn't have to sit like you and I. But if you are not like her, we always say she's the outlier. If you are not like her and you are like me, please spend time. Redo your LinkedIn. Let it sell you. Get other people to review it. Get other people to endorse you. There's an endorsement aspect to it. So that will be on LinkedIn. If you do have a website, please put the address there so we can click and see what you're up to in this world. Your mailing address. There are some institutions that are still very old school. There's so many institutions I do work for. When I send emails with all the documents, their admin will so call me and say, "Madam, please, can you submit a printed copy?" You would think in 2024, people would be uptake. It's not so. So please make sure that whatever box number you put there is working, is being paid for, and you can receive mails through it. And make sure you check as well. You need to put your educational and professional background. And here, sometimes people struggle. Now, in trying to put these together, the simple rule is to keep to the chronology of how things happened. So from the very recent to the latter. Now, the rationale is that we hardly have time to go through all applications. And so at a first glance, when I have just a minute for you, it has to be worth the time. It has to be worth pushing you through the door. So you want to keep top line the things that you have just done so that the employer can see it and consider you. So please don't go starting from 1999. Because by the time she reaches to 2000, they'll call her to a meeting. You've missed out. Perhaps what she's really looking for is what you just did in 2024. But because it's buried down there, she'll miss it. So please be guided to make sure that there's a chronological sequence to everything you're doing. There's also the need to put relevant. And please, I am highlighting relevant. There's a need to put relevant extracurriculum activities. Relevant extracurriculum activities. It means that you need to look at what job you are applying for, and then you can state the extra things that you have done. For example, if we were taking people for switch room. Now, switch room is a place in the bank where we do international transfers. It's like that place where they take the people who are too serious to smile. Some of us won't make it there. I did work there for her, but you and I won't make it there. Because the figures are huge. You're dealing with foreign exchange. So they need someone that can actually keep a level head, one that is not swayed, like a military unit. If you go put in there, with all due respect, that you sing, that it won't sell you. We're not singing in that space. So it's something you've done, it's remarkable, but there's a way to craft it. So you don't go amplifying that to your detriment. And that is why CVs are tailor-made. You need to look at the job at stake, and then you select the most relevant things and highlight them. It is very key. Please be guided. Now, what do you need to include in your CV? And we started that already. You need to also put your work experience in there. Now, this is where all those who took holidays and didn't work, this is where you are burnt out. Because I know that the department will give you the letters to go and look for internship. And some of you just go and chill. Please, if you've been doing that, it has a way of coming back to bite you. You see, the colleagues that get to do the internship, they are able to populate that column with the things they have done. That is work experience. Otherwise, you end up saying that you worked at Auntie Masa's provision shop. It is the only experience you may have because Auntie Masa is your mother. And so that provision shop, when people come, and you go and sell to the people, it will be the only experience you would have to put on that. It's not entirely bad. But I believe that if you would just take your internship serious, you may have the opportunity to work in places like Diageo, Nestle, and what have you, and you can populate that section beautifully. Anyone who sees that, now what it tells a recruiter is that you've been introduced into work culture. So there's already a systemic growth in you. All we need to do is to custom fit you to our space. So you are not a novice. You're not someone we're now seeing the first time and we have to invest so much time. Once you've been to the workspace, you understand the etiquettes of work, you understand where to show up, you understand the diplomacies around work. So you become a better candidate than the next person to be hired. So please take those important as well. You also have to harness your skills and achievements. And ladies and gentlemen, we have moved away from saying, I'm a team player. We have moved away from saying that I work with accuracy. I have numerical strength. Today, we're measuring the things that you claim are your skills and achievements. And so it is best for us to see a practical demonstration. It doesn't need to be wordy because nobody is interested in reading long scripts. However, it needs to encapsulate in a single sentence what it is you mean by being a team player. So if you led a team to scythe competition, for example, your ability to craft that, led a team of 50 people to an international competition, that is measurable. And our placement was first or it was second. That tells me that this is someone, given the right environment, the right opportunity, can actually lead people. Because one, you've told me the number of people you had to deal with, which is 50. You've told me the activity you had to do. It was organizing people for a competition. It meant that in there was research work, in there was pitching, in there was negotiation, in there was trying to get people to align. And then you also needed to build confidence in them. You see how just one statement gets the recruiter's mind churning and working around your favor. So if you put you're a team player, it's a cliche. We no longer want to see it because we know people just copy and paste it there. So we're not interested in it. One of the relevant things that you need to do as well is that whilst you're applying for that job, every job has what we call the job description sheet. When you see the advert, we will state clearly all the things that we want. One of the easiest things we've always said to beginners is just copy the JD and put it there. Then now you start to edit the JD to fit the things you've done. Now the reason we let you do that is simple. In the institutions that we run, depending on the social collateral of that institution, you can actually put up just a single advert and you have over 1,000 applicants. Over 1,000 applicants. Now, there's a possibility that if you have to do this manually, you may skip the best candidates because by the time you get to the 100%, you're already exhausted. Sometimes weeks, but things have evolved. Now we have the applicant tracking system, what people call the ATS. Now, the ATS has been programmed. It's a robotic software. So what you do is that you give it parameters. So you tell the ATS that for this role that I'm looking for example, I'm looking for a carpenter installer. We put clearly in that space someone that has handled machines, and we can specify all the machine from screwing machine to drilling machine to cutting machine to dye machine. So we put all of those there. So the robot has been programmed to know that anyone whose CV comes through with those distinct bits, it starts to mark. It starts to mark. When it gets 75% of all the keywords that have been inputted into it, it selects you as first option. So sometimes from 1,000 applications, ATS will select like 100, and then it would further screen down. So what it will keep doing is still looking out for the key principles that match the JD until it labels down to, if the organization wants to interview just 5 people, it will select just 5 people who have to the closest inch the things that the job is asking for. So that's how it is. You sit home and say, yeah, it's protocol and they didn't call me. Yes, you didn't put the protocol on your CV. So it didn't work in your favor. So it is extremely important that you copy that JD, put it right there in your CV. Do a copy of your CV. Nobody's going to charge you for doing copies, or put it there. And then now start to tailor make it. The key and essential words that they have put in there, make sure it's reflecting. Because that robot doesn't know Kwesi, doesn't know Kojo, doesn't know Ama. It's only programmed to pick what is being told to do. So please ensure that you have all the key details that can let the system pick you as one of the top people to be interviewed. The rest will be up to grammar. Grammar, because you have to go and speak all the blah about who you are, what you've done, and all of that, right? But first you need to get through the door. So please pay some attention to the skills and achievements that you have. So for now, because you're not applying for a job, you can have all your skill sets laid out. So you have like a master CV. But every time there's a job opening, you need to tailor make it. So you are the daughter or son of the Adieye woman. You know who Adieye is? Those who carry the machine and sew. Because every time you need to re-sew, you need to re-sew. It is important. You have to put your interests and hobbies. Now, in every organization, we do have the high performers. We also do have the people that bring fun to the organization. Every organization wants to create a culture that gets people going. And so sometimes we look at the interests that have been stated to see if you are a cultural fit for the job. Now, a cultural fit simply means that in every organization, as we know, we learned a long while ago, culture is what? The way a group of people eat, drink, dance. Hey, what are you saying? Just say, you guys have forgotten. Hey, say, please, watch these people, right? Every organization as well does have a culture. That is the way things are done and acceptable by the ethics of the organization. Now, when we're taking people to come into the organization, we're looking for people that can enhance the culture of the business, not necessarily disrupt the business. Because, you know, you can bring just one person and the whole organization comes crumbling down. If they're extremely lazy and they are influential lazy, it means that given 3 months, every other person will become lazy. If they are latecomers and they are very well-known celebrity latecomers, in no time, when they become leaders, that team is never showing up. So who you bring into the business is as important as how the business runs. So when we are interviewing people as well, we want to see the individuals that when we bring into the tray, they will impact the business. So when you are selecting what to put in that space, please be mindful. Try and do some understanding of the business. See what their focus area is, and then put that in there. The organizations that when you went, if you go onto their social system, you will see a lot of sporting activities and all of that. It's your opportunity to say, Charlie, I dey play tennis, I dey play basketball. If you know it's a lie, please don't get there and they'll give you a racket and then you're all over. Best, if you put it there, quickly go and look for someone to teach you how to play the game. When they ask you, you say you're a beginner. I say, but I say, yes, I play tennis, but I didn't say I'm a pro. I'm just a beginner. Yeah, I just started classes. That is fair enough, you know. So try and understand what it is they are doing. If you see that every time they are doing activities and they are drama people and they are all dressed, please put it there, I'm a cheerleader. Yeah, that's English. I'm a cheerleader. Then they know, oh, we're trying to get more people to join the squad. We already have you. Because look, in organizations, we're not just taking all the serious people together. It will become a different empire. Sometimes we bring in the fun-loving, the funky people as well to spice up the environment, to keep everybody's mind fresh. Because look, every organization churn different models every now and then. So we're not looking for the routine people. We're looking for the disruptors as well. But it's got to be a positive disruptor. So please take a moment, check what it is that's happening in that organization, custom make that session to just fit. If you see them doing a lot of travels and all of that, be sure to put that you love traveling. If you get the international places where we are hiking, be sure you are hiking as well. But as I said, whatever it is you are putting there must be the truth. Must be the truth. Otherwise, then it has to be the vulture principle. Does anyone know the vulture principle? Anyone? You don't know the vulture principle? Maybe you do. So in the local parlance, it said that the vulture, so okay, who is the king of the birds? Sorry? Did you say lion? Hey, I go for it. Fly. Hey, I want for with eagle. Right, okay. So the eagle prides itself as the king of the birds and takes a walk as such. Now, the vulture also believes that it can actually occupy that space. Like all spheres of life. When you're made a president, someone thinks they can do the job better. When you're made the director, someone thinks they can do the job better. In the bird's kingdom as well, the vulture believes that it should be made the king. And so it is said that the vulture actually walks on the refuse dump, which is his kingdom, with his wings wide apart. Have you had a good look at the vulture taking a peacock walk on the dumpster? Have you seen it? So the vulture says that it is rehearsing how it would walk when finally they bestow the kingship on him. You see how he's preparing for his future. Are you preparing for your future? So the vulture is not living a fake life. The vulture believes that he deserves to be the king, but he's just not sitting down and waiting. He's taking the steps to learn how to walk, because who knows, when he becomes a pageant that day and they call, oh, Mr. King, maybe the only judgment will be how you walked and you were selected. The guy wants to be ready. Are you ready? The guy wants to be ready. Like, he doesn't want anybody to say, that's your work, yeah, like some, I don't know, messenger. He's learning how to walk majestically, showing and flaunting what it is he thinks he has. And that is how he is preparing for his future. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you preparing for your future? So that CV, that interest column, the things you are putting there, you need to start participating in them. Sometimes it's at church, they're doing fun games. Be active. Sometimes it's in the community. Be active. The professional groups that we have, ProMax, the account ACCA group and all of that, be active. Get yourself in there and learn a skill that when you put out there, learn an interest, that when you say, that prospective person feels that you have what it takes. Languages. Now this is also something very, very key. When we're selecting people for market activations, so my organization, we handle everything around Nestle Ghana, everything around Diageo, Telecel, MTN, and all of that. When we're selecting people to lead the sales channeling for these brands, there are times that we necessarily have to look at the language that has been stated, because the lingua will tell us how effective you can be in a specific market. If I'm having market activations in Kumasi, there's a rare chance that I'll pick someone who can't speak at all. If you can't speak a country at all, it's rare, simply because of the nature of that activity. You're going to have to deal with all the queen mothers in the market. You're going to have to deal with all the distributors, and some of these people do not speak English. So taking a team lead who only speaks English can become difficult. However, when we think you have what we're looking for, and we have the possibility to take 2 people, then the next candidate becomes the bearer of the communication. So we call it the Moses-Aaron paradigm. There are times that we're selecting someone, you've got a lot of things we're looking for, but there are 2 or 3 things you don't have. We will take a backup arm to you. But that only happens if you have really distinguished yourself in what we are looking for. For example, if you are looking for a designer, a UIX designer, and you have everything we're looking for, but maybe you just have 2 or 3 deficiencies, we will find that deficiencies in somebody else. They'll partner you and we can get the job done. So those are some key things that you need to pay attention to. Please don't go and say that you can speak Dagbani when in fact you can't. Because you never know. When we get to that market, maybe our first stop is the chief's palace. And because I believe that you can speak, when we get there, I'm like, MC, oh yeah, let's go now. And then trouble. You will lose your job. So you're better off writing just what it is you know. Even if you know a language and you think you're not proficient in it, please state it. State it, that you are just a beginner. That is if you know some basic words to get around, communicating with people. It can work to your favor. Because sometimes we will look at it and say, okay, we're not finding anybody that can actually speak this end to end, but you have some partial understanding. You will pass. So we'll push you through. So please, if you haven't learned any other language, maybe it's a good time to do so. Learn a thing or two. Some of you have been in Ho forever. I'm sure you still can't speak Fetridachi here. Please learn something. Well, you're leaving soon, but you never know. Just be on the phone with some Igbe man or some Igbe woman. They'll teach you. It will so work. Now, at your level, we expect to have references. We expect to have references. Ladies and gentlemen, please do not put your mother's name as your reference, your boyfriend's name, your girlfriend's name as your reference. Do not. It would only work to your disadvantage. You need to put key people. One of such are people you interned with. Now, the rule is that don't just go putting someone's name without engaging them. Because the individuals you put there, they make and unmake you. When we come to the crust of selecting between two keenly competitive candidates, we now go to the reference point. So we would want to speak to Esther. Esther, whilst Desmond worked at VP, what do you think about him? Is he good? Can we engage him? Is he a good team support? So all the questions that would have come to you now goes to Esther. If Esther is your ex-girlfriend, Wipra, you already know what will happen. If Paul is your ex-boyfriend, even he is slightly calm, but you can still have issues. So it is best that you keep to the professional angle. The person you interned with, give them a call. Walk to their office. Say, I have worked with you over the period. I would have loved to come back to you. However, I understand that you do not have the capabilities to take me on. I am, however, applying to A, B, C, and D places. Can I please list you as my point of reference? Are you comfortable speaking up for me? Because you see, the very moment you put my name or someone's name on your CV, they have to sell their social collateral for you. When we do networking someday, I'll explain into details. But when I say that Paul is good to a prospective recruiter, it's my reputation on the line. It's the same way when we're applying for academic institutions. We come to our lecturers and they fill the form for us. They are putting their social collateral on the line for us, because part of what they ask is whether I have the acumen to study. And if he says yes, and I go into the institution and every day zero, every day, no matter what they do, they give me extra classes and what, I'm still not pulling my strength. It rubs off on him. The next time he gives a recommendation to the next person, it will be looked at carefully. It's the same for every professional out there. When they put their social collateral out, it needs to matter. And that is why you need to have the conversation with them. Because even if they were not so impressed about how you performed, within that moment, they could just layer down and want to support your career. Because for every professional, you always have to think that maybe they were not good for you. It doesn't mean they were not good for others. So you would want to support. But if you just put someone's name and you don't engage them, trust me, some people, when they call them, they will decline to say anything in your favor or against you. When it happens like that, the recruiter's mind is that there's some red flags for which reason the person doesn't want to talk. So they take you off. You don't want to lose a good opportunity just because you made a mistake with this. You must also have an academic reference person to put on, because you are coming straight from school. We believe that you've had a 3-year, 4-year expanse moment with your lecturers. And so you must engage and then put somebody's name out there. Please do not flood that part of the CV. Some people have just turned it into an editorial space. So many names. Sometimes you open someone's CV, you have like 5, 6 reference people. You think anybody has time to call all these people? You have to sit now and cross your fingers and be hoping that whoever it is they call out of that lot will speak sense. And because if your reference person cannot speak sense, I can only tell who you are. So please, select them carefully, engage them, and then go ahead and put them there. Be sure that the details you put there are active and relevant. They are active and relevant. In some instances as well, when you go higher in your career, you would realize that some of the roles that you apply for, you need to put referencing of people higher than you in those spaces because they're the only ones that can vouch for you. You understand? As a country manager, my reference cannot possibly be a colleague who maybe is an accounts manager. It won't fly. It won't fly. My references have been CEOs and board people because it is believed that you've come to a certain part of your career where the people you work with are at that level. And they need to be able to vouch whether you are capable of doing the job or not. So as you go along, that's why I told you earlier, it's a breathing document. So it must change as you go along. So don't keep a referral for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years ago. They would even forget who you were and what you did. So as you go along, just be updating it. So that will be on referencing. I've spent some good time here because I wanted it to have some relevance to you and stick in your mind. Oh, my baby has given up. I assure you it was working a while ago. Yeah. It just wanted Adam to walk all the way here, so. Now, I believe that I've touched on some of the things that you don't need to do when you are putting your CV together. Avoid titling the CV. I mentioned that to you. We used to do it like font size 40, curriculum vitae. We thought we were the ish then. Please, today if you put that there, someone will throw your document somewhere else. It's best you space the documents very well. Make sure that it has your name, as I mentioned earlier. All your headings have to be good, have to be clear. Break up the various paragraphs so that it's easy to just dive into it. A recruiter can decide that they are not interested in seeing anything else except for your educational qualification. Because if they use the 8 years, it's already sieved out everything they need to see. So they could say that, for example, in the bank, in treasury, the back office demands then, I don't know about today, that you had a certificate from Peter Skerrit. It's a professional course you need to take for dealers. A recruiter may just go straight there. That's the only thing they want to see because they believe that of the 5 shortlisted candidates, everybody has the same thing they are looking for. But that's unique identifier is what they are looking for. So they will just go straight there looking out just for that certificate. So make sure that your paragraphs are clear, there are breaks in between and can be seen. Have a very tidy CV. Otherwise, someone is just going to flip it across the room and will not be interested in seeing it. Now, list everything in reverse chronological order. I've mentioned that as well. After years of working, let the history start from below. Because after all, you lived those days before today. So let the history start from below and build it up. Let the most recent be what everybody sees, even if they have just a second to peruse your CV. Let your achievements also be listed clearly. Avoid fonts such as Comic Scan. Don't go and be using all those italicized fonts that someone has to struggle to read. It's not a wedding invitation card. You know, on wedding invitation cards, we try to put up keche. So we choose all manner of, italics and all of that. Some of them, you can't even read yourself. If they use it to write your name, You would ask someone else to mention what it is because you can't even tell what it is. Do not go and use these fonts. They would only work to your disadvantage. Stick to Times Roman. It's easy, everyone can read. Stick to the very, very basic, straightforward, and it helps you to sell yourself. There's always the ask to look at using a font size between 10 and 12 so that people can read clearly. Don't overblow it because when it's too big as well, the pages will be a lot. Now for a beginner, people ask, what have you done that you have 6 pages to show us? It simply tells us you've written a lot of things that are irrelevant. So you need to be mindful of that. And it could just be because of the font size you selected. Font size 20 will give you 25 pages, Abby. So please be careful when selecting your font size. Ensure that the fonts are the same. There's nothing like that nightmare when you flip one page, it's Times Roman, you flip the next, it's Goethe, you flip, and you're like, but who is this? And this is the person telling you they are professionals. Straight away you know that they are all over the page. You're not taking them serious. Please don't double check the margins. It will just distort your alignment. Because you send these things soft. Sometimes what you are seeing is looking all perfect. By the time they open it, the education, the year is this way. The name is that way. Always try and open your CV on different devices and see how it actually looks like. If you don't keep the margins right, you probably will not be called for the job. Even the ATS will not be able to detect the key things it's looking for. So please be minded and make sure that there's always a 2.5 centimeter margin, which is easy to walk around, navigate, and every system will pick it and make it show. Don't do your margin so small simply because you want to fit your CV. It could make it unattractive for anyone that's looking at it. Make sure you keep it concise. Use bullet points. No long grammar. No long grammar. There are lots of apps now that can simplify everything you've put together. You can actually write a long script and give it to ChatGPT. Ask it to simplify it for you. It will. But you would have to go back and read it. There's also Jenny. It's also a software. Some of these apps are paid for. Others are free. Take advantage of some of those. If you struggle with summary, maybe your business communications lecturer will tell me, then make sure that you use the tools that are available to you. Let it summarize it so that it's concise. Anyone that reads the first sentence can tell what you're trying to communicate. No long grammar. Don't use 20 lines to explain something that can be put in one sentence. It won't work to your benefit. So I'll need you to make sure that the layout is also right. Now there are so many layouts on the internet. So many. And the only reason we have that is because CV is actually like a dress. You heard me say tailor-make. So the way we have different dresses, different fabrics, different styles, it's the same with the CV. You must, however, choose the one that is relevant to the space you are applying to. There's a format that works when we are selecting creatives. So I work with a lot of creatives. Creatives are people who use softwares from Illustrator to 3D modeling, 2020 modeling, and what have you. It's so much for them to tell, but they have a very simplified layout, which is just a one-pager. So normally, if you're a graphic designer, you're a UX designer, creative modeler, if you send your CV and it's more than a page, we already know you don't know what you are doing. We don't even look at it. Because there's a layout. It helps you to put everything right there, very summarized, and it's easy. Because what they do are technical courses. As soon as you put an illustrator there, you don't need to come and tell me an illustrator is used to bring room and light into the modeling. The assessor knows. So putting an illustrator has saved you so many lines that you'd have wasted time putting up. You need to check if it's accounting. There's a format that works for all accounting people. So you must spend some time, scout for the right layout. and make sure that you push it there. In some of the places we apply, at a certain level, what they are expecting to see are just measurable achievements. So you won't see them writing the schools they went to. No. Nobody is interested in that. At the board level, your CV is a different vibe. It's just about your achievement. So over there, as soon as you open it, the first things that hits you was able to turn a fund of $20 million into an impact field of 50,000 across Accra. And I did this. It's straight. So they are measuring. They are just speaking. Hey, wow. You had that much money. This is what you did with it. Impact, worked with MasterCard Foundation to execute ABC. And it's so straightforward. So you don't go seeing, I went to Anyako LA. It's not there. It's not there. Do you know Anyako? And that's my mom's hometown. That's the only place I can mention they won't beat me. You can't say you went to LA FIA. At that level, those are gone. When you leave school, after 2-3 years, you would see that you can't even write your secondary school anymore on your CV. Because there's so much that has happened, you don't need that anymore. You understand? So please make sure that you pay some attention to the layout. Quickly pick that which is important, that which works for you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please, no matter what it is they are calling you here on campus. You know the story about the woman who went looking for her son at school. And she spent 2 days looking for her son. Because she went, Kofi Amejo is my son. I'm looking for him. She spoke to everybody. Nobody knew Kofi Amejo. He is called Sexy Putu Putu. Now how is mama supposed to know Sexy Putu Putu? The poor woman thought her son was missing. Spent 2 days looking for her son. Sexy Putu Putu. Please, do not save a CV. Sexy Putu Putu. When we see it, all that rings in our head. Sexual harassment in here. Sexual harassment in here. Rape in here. We won't want to deal with you. It's a professional document. So please, before you send it, resave it. Save it with your full name. So that, worst case scenario, when there are so many things on the director's desktop and he's looking for that thing, your name can just be that easy one that will help him select you. So please, don't put sexy wogo wogo, sexy putu putu. Which are some of the names you have here? Answer. Car owner. Hey, Chemibie. I see. Hey, say you have car owners. Kanzo. Hey. Please, I beg you. Those are the names we carry in the corridors of fun. But when you need someone to take you serious, please do not use that name to save your file. Because it will take forever to find it. It could even be deleted as spam. It could be deleted as spam. Because you know Trojan horses and all these spams, they have unique names, very funny names. Someone would see it, mistake it for a spam and delete it. So please, let it bear the name that you have been given, the name that you ascribe to, not the nickname that you walk around the gallery with. It is important that you do that. So from here, if you've put whatever it is, please go and change it. Shy Guy, Lady Zogi, please. Go and change. Some are Lady Gaga, please. Make sure you change it. Let it reflect that professional look. Make sure that the title of the document is professional as well. Now, for some of the adverts, they will ask you a specific way to save it. They will ask you a specific way to save it. And this is because they may be opening vacancies for different roles. So they probably would ask that you put your name and add the role to it. So please make sure you read carefully and follow through. Because otherwise, no one will be picking your CV because they can't tell which of the roles you actually applied for. And mind you, there are 1,001 people they are screening through. So they may not want to pay attention to just you. So just make sure you follow the protocols that have been put in place. Make sure that you save the file in an easy readable format. So it's either you are saving it in PDF, or when they ask you to save it in Microsoft Word, whichever version they've given you, you make sure you save it as such. Now, one of the key reasons why we ask that you save your PDFs, you save documents, in PDF extension is that this is a document that is selling you. There's a lot of politics that goes on in institutions. Sometimes people can actually delete parts of what you've submitted in Word, resave it, put it there, so then you become the most unattractive candidate because they do have people they also want the job for. So if it is such an open document, there's also the risk of someone just taking advantage and mafiaing you. So it is important that you save it in PDF extension, one that is easy to open, but the person will need a special software to edit. PDF, that's just, and normally with PDF, for all recruiters, for all professionals, when a document has been altered, you can check from viewing history. So we can tell that when Yaya sent her document, somebody opened it, and it would actually
Hello.
Okay, we're back online. So it would actually highlight all the respective words that were even changed in the document. So that's how easy it is, and it can help you. So best, please save your documents in PDF extensions so you don't have anybody altering what you have spent time to put together. Except the advertisement is asking you to save it in a different format, because there are times they will give you those instructions as well. So please don't say because I said PDF, even if they've written Microsoft, you say, hey, which one is that one? I won't do. Please. If it's Word, put it there. Whichever format they ask you, please comply. Now there are some do's that we have in CV writing as well. And here
Hello.
You need to put words like you created. You need to be able to say you analyzed and you devised. Here you're trying to present yourself in a very present mode, where we feel that what you're talking about is not a one-off thing. It's something, if we gave you the opportunity today, you can still do. So be mindful of the words that you pick, the choices that you make, to harness and project what you're speaking about. So I created a software that enabled the organization to file all its system, documents. It tells me that that's someone that's very open. If I need some structuring done in my system, they are just the candidates to bring on board. If you said you devised Okay, great. So please be mindful of your spelling. Be sure the grammar is right. Use Grammarly and all the tools available to you to check that if you feel that you're unable to look at it carefully. Also have somebody review your CV for you, because what you may miss, someone else may find. So please make sure you do that. Avoid the generic words of a team player, hard-working, multitasker. Instead, provide real-life examples that demonstrate these words. As I said earlier, I led 50 people to do A, B, C, and D. That tells a better picture of who a team player is than saying I'm a team player. And what we did over the years was we bullet point these things. Hard-working, bullet 1. Team player, bullet 2. What are some of the things you put on your CV? Tell me. Yes, I'm listening. Lady in blue, in glasses, what have you put in that space? Eye for details. Numerical strength. Tell me some of the things you have there. Hey, Okra Ferry. Even you are shy of mentioning them. How would the recruiter feel? Are you saying you haven't done a CV at all? I know you have. So what are some of the words that we have in that space? Tell me. Let's engage. You can work under pressure. In my office, there are days we can be working on a project for 4 straight days. People have hardly had any sleep or bath. And sometimes they are so exhausted, you see them just
Hello.
Thank you. The study went for a good number of years, and the Harvard Business Review has a position. Please don't beat me. I didn't do this research. But it is said that men cannot multitask. Yes. It is a general dispensation of women. It comes natural to women. Men have to build it. This is a study that was carried out for a good number of years. And so, as a recruiter, as an employer, when we give tasks out as well, we clearly understand what it is to expect at the end. So when you are putting some of the words in there, when we see it, sometimes we just shake our heads and we start to laugh. So accept that you're like Paul and you've put there that you were a peer counselor within that period whilst you were still studying. And I can see your CGPA and it's really telling. I'm just going to take it like a joke. So you're better off writing the exact things you did within this period. Maybe you were working at VP. Maybe you were leading WOCOM, or you were in SRC, or you were the class rep, or you were, whatever it is you were doing within that period. that shows that you have the ability to do multiple things at a time. It needs to be stated clearly. Okay. Now, I've mentioned this, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. I told you, your CV is just like that fabric you've bought. Every time you need to tailor make it. You need to tailor make it. So every single time. Make sure you look at the description and craft a CV. And that's why the heading is crafting a CV. We didn't build, we're crafting it. So every time it's work in progress. Every time. So make sure that you put the necessary details that you need to make sure it shows exactly what it is you're doing. Ensure to follow whatever it is and the targeting that they've put out there so that they can sell you. Create the right type of CV for your circumstance. The right type of CV for your circumstance. Now, in some rare occasions as well, there are individuals who have not gotten the job, not because they are not qualified, but rather they are overqualified. That day will come, you get there, you'll be like, hey, it's me, where you'll be overqualified for a role. There are times that people take strategic decisions to start from the base. If that becomes a choice you want to pursue, you would have to tailor make the CV and take out all the outliers, the ones that make you overqualified. You need to scale them off the CV. Because for as long as they are there, it means that the prospective employer feels they cannot pay you, you will not be satisfied in the job, you are not the candidate for them. And so it's not always that we have to race too much. There are times that you may have to take a step lower just for strategic purposes of entering into a certain space. There are a lot of colleagues that have had to take a step backwards, especially in the US aid and those foundations, because you need an entry part. And if what you have is not capable of giving you the senior role, you might as well start from the bottom and quickly rise. Because once you already have what it takes, your acceleration when you get in there is as easy as what it is. Those of you who watch football, there are some players that are very good, yet they are benched. There are some iconic goals that we've had over the years, and it was delivered by these people coming from the bench. True or false? Exactly. So they have to cut low to let some other person wear the number 10 shirt whilst they were given number 23. But when that opportunity comes and they finally are on the pitch for 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 2 minutes, they make sure they shine. And so some days will come, you probably would have to cut down. Make sure that the email address is professional. It can be searched for. Because some of the correspondence may be sent to your email address. You don't want it bouncing back, or you don't want it delivered somewhere you don't access. So please, if you opened a Yahoo, a Gmail, a Hotmail, it's a good time to go check it out. Make sure your password is active. Make sure you can access it. Because sometimes, if you don't, a couple of months down, you go back and you would have seen you missed a very golden opportunity only because you were not checking. So please be sure to check that. Also, please don't lie. So in essence, what we are saying is be truthful. Do not exaggerate the facts. Do not exaggerate the facts. Now, this is because there's always a reference point. That organization you are aiming to come and work at, there are people who belong to the alumni of that school you went to. It's a phone call away. I could just check in. This individual says they have a CGPA of 3.6, 3.8, 4.2. Is that so? Now I don't know what's done here. In our year, they used to paste our GPA on the boards. If you are the hostel and they call you that GPA, but okay. Between who wants to go to Trafalgar and who wants to just die. Because it had your name, it had your business course, it had all the respective courses and the grades you made and the marks you got. So those days when the freshers come to campus, our lecturers would wait, that registry, they will wait. As soon as the freshers settle in, they post our GPA. So that all the boys who are going around chasing the freshers, no, it ends there. It ends right there because the GPA not the B. If the GPA is not GPA, nobody wants to date you. And they used to do that a lot to us. But please, in essence, what I'm saying is that let it be factual. Because academic certifications can always be traced. Do not be like one great man of this nation who said that the floods took his certificates away. You guys didn't know. There was a very prominent politician who was asked to substantiate his certificates, and he said the floods of Alajo took all his certificates away. So he couldn't show. But we know you can always go back to the institutions for a copy, right? So it tells you clearly that he had lied. Please make sure that the postings you do online include a lot of things, but not your home address. Not your home address. This is because it can expose you to fraudsters, thieves, and some ill-meaning people, even in the organization. Sometimes you go for an interview, you may not even get the job, but someone may have an eye for you. Except you are interested, it can become a point of harassment for you because they will show up at your house. And you never know what intents they would have and what they would do. So please make sure you don't put your home address there. It's a no-no. Don't also put the number of siblings you have. We don't need that. We don't need that. If we're doing strict interview, I will tell you how to pitch yourself. Some people will sit in front of you and start to tell you, I have 5 siblings and my father has 2 wives. Director, please. We don't have the time. Please always make sure you have a cover letter attached to your CV. Except the employer says do not attach a cover letter, which is very rare. The cover letter serves as the summary of who you are and what you've done. The CV gives all the description, but the cover letter is just that one pager that speaks volumes. Sometimes your CV will not even be read. They just go into the cover letter. They know exactly why you think you are qualified for the job, the skills you have, the achievements you have, and then off you go. When you are working on this as well, please make sure that all the spellings are on point because first impressions do count. So please make sure you pay a lot of attention to that. It is a bit dicey, but we say that it's also not the place to be disclosing disability. Except it is an ask. Some of the organizations will ask that you disclose any form of physical impairments that you have so they can make a choice. Now, there are some jobs that people feel based on a certain handicap bit you cannot do. But they could be surprised and they could be wrong. But to take away biasness and not let people rule you out of the race, we always say that it's best not to mention except they have demanded it. So please don't go writing so much about it. When you have the opportunity to sit in front of them and it comes up, you can say what it is and what you've done to make sure that you are able to move. Besides, the laws of the state demands that every organization should have at least 5% of people who are challenged. There's a law that protects you. In fact, organizations who know when you're employed with any disability, we take a letter to the welfare unit. A special dispensation is given to the organization, including some tax reliefs in some instances. So they benefit, you understand? But don't give someone the opportunity to write you off before you even get the opportunity at the table. Now, it's a shame that you won't be able to see it but later on I'm sure we can share it. But this is just a summary of everything we've spoken about, where you have your name, you have your LinkedIn, you have your contacts details, and your email address for us to reach you. You have a summary of who you are. So the first part of your CV is dedicated to a summary which shows what you've done, what you hope to do. So in some instances, you would see that I aspire to be able to work in the board level. I aspire to be able to teach in the highest faculties. So straight away, the employer knows that if they have an L&D session, which is a learning and development office, this is someone they could be looking at in terms of grooming you to fit that space. So that summary is as important as the cover letter that you've done. It doesn't need to be more than 5 lines. It doesn't need to be more than 5 lines. It means that you have to be very circumspect with the words that you choose to fill that place. Then you go into, for you will start from your educational. But for people who have been working for long, we start from our work achievements. And you put it with the dates that correspond to it with the institutions. And that should tell a story about you. So you have your educational, you have your work, then you have your interest points and hobbies, you have your referencing. As I mentioned, please do not turn the reference side into an editorial page. This is another layout, very simplified, for this young person, Sharma, trying to sell himself. So he's been able to put them side by side. So adapt whatever works, but make sure that the lettering is clear, the font size is readable, and it is communicating exactly what it is you've done over the period. If I asked anyone to show us their CV today, do you have it to show? Good. I have just one candidate. And then the young lady there. So technically we have about 5 people out of, I'm not too sure how many people are seated here, but just 5 people. So aside these well-employed people in front here who don't need our CV, you don't even have your CV. Please. Tomorrow is part of the career fair. You can't show up without your CV. What we did when we were younger was that we showed up in these places with our CVs. The people that came picked them up and were able to recruit people right from these events. Jobberman will be here. They do recruitment. I work with them on projects. That is the space where you get recruited. So you can't possibly show up and not have it. Opportunity meets those who are ready. So if today I had wanted to employ someone, you obviously have missed the opportunity. Because I may not have the time to listen to you, to give me an elevator pitch. So you've missed it. If you had it, you could also be just crossing out the things as you go along. You just be like, oh, check, this one. So you know the things you need to go back and work on. So please, when you are coming for job fairs, just make sure that you carry your CV. It is key. Now I decided to just run you quickly through some of the things that we do when we receive the CV. So technically, we call it in HR screening. Screening. It's just like the way you do medical screening. So your CV is brought, someone will look at it carefully to decide whether you are the candidate or not. Even after the ATS has filtered it, we still will scale down. Now we start to look out for the necessary skills that we put in the job description. We start to check the experience you are coming to the table with. We check your qualifications, the positions you've held, and the key job requirements that we put out there to see if indeed your CV needs to be picked out or shortlisted. Once we are certain that you are the person, the phone calls begin. So we start to either invite you into the organization or we start to screen on the phone. And this is the reason why I decided to add this to it. We start to screen on the phone. So please, when you craft your CV, spend a moment to dig into it. Because by the time that call may come, You are probably at the market. You don't have access to that CV's copy. But questions are going to be flying from that CV you submitted. Do you know it well enough to speak to it? If you don't know it, that could also be another opportunity lost just because you are not in sync with what you shared. So please, 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 ensure that you're always ready for as long as you've sent a CV out there, because your screening, your interview could start from a phone call. It could even start from a WhatsApp page. Now we're doing a lot of recruitment on WhatsApp. So don't let somebody reach out and yeah, what's up? Yeah, cool. Yeah. You don't know who is at the other end of the line. If for some of you, when you have phone calls or strange numbers, the first thing, who is that? Why? Who is that? The person will say wrong number and hang up. Because already they know you don't match and you're not a cultural fit. Because perhaps they have a certain decorum in the organization in terms of lingua, and you just failed it. Only because you are being your usual self. A strange number. They say empty and phone number. Please, take a moment, just listen to the other person. See what it is they have to say before you write them off. Because it could just be that recruiter reaching out to you. So please, if you've been doing who is that? Amekema. Please, stop. Ameke, stop. Why namone? Stop. Stop. Listen. When they ask, is this Araba Forsen? Yes, please. It is Araba Forsen. How can I be of help? Oh, well, we received your CV. Oh, yes, please. I did apply for the role of an accounts manager. And then the person would pick up the conversation from there. The next thing you know, you are the role holder. Because you exercise decorum, you showed a lot of respect at the other end. Some people just fall in love with you the way you interact with them. So you may not be the most qualified candidate, but they will lobby for you to get the job. Because they think you have the persona they are looking for. A lot of people, respect is the thing. So if you miss that opportunity, you're done for. So you could be the best because your CGPA is showing it. But if you don't have the character that can take you beyond the door, you may not get the job. So please be guided. When you're picking these interactions, please, please, please be professional, be respectful. No matter what mood you are in, my young ladies, that time of the cycle where we feel like the universe must close the door, please be guided. It could just be that moment when your shine needed to come through, but you followed your pain and you lost it. So please, please, please remember that all the time. After that, you may be called in for an in-person interview where you meet a panel or you meet individuals. One of the key things you need to do is to dress professional as the CV you submitted. So when you walk through the door, everyone wants to see someone with attention. Because if we're going to spend our time speaking to you, it has to mean something to us. It's got to be worth it. So please, don't wear the dress you are going to the markets with and suddenly show up there. No matter what your financial circumstances are, I would urge you, invest. Buy a single suit and try and rehearse the vulture theory. Don't wait till the day they call you for the interview. Then you go and wear Shabila Nkwe's suit. When you step in, we would all know that this is the first time you are wearing suit. Oh, we will know. If it's the first time you are wearing suit, there's a way you walk. Anybody knows how to depict that? There's just a way you walk. As soon as you hear this, for 4 or 5 will backward door. For those who don't speak, we're asking if it's your dad's dress. Oh, papa, terra na kafa na de hona na terra. I da you suffer. So please, practice in front of your mirror. Wear the suit. Try and be a gentleman or a lady in it. Pose in front of it. Imagine that that's the panel you are going to meet for that prospective job. You will catch it, 10, and just be sure that, yes, you feel confident in it. Do you know that there are times when you go for a program, what you are wearing tells how you dance? Oh, you haven't seen the Osofo Mamis? Hey, when Osofo Mami releases new shoe, new dress, the praise the Lord level, different one. Please make sure that even if your circumstances are that dire and you don't have so much, have one or two, which is always neat, well ironed, and looking sharp. Looking sharp. Don't just wear anything and show up. Because whether you like it or not, the people that are going to interview, they are humans. They have their own biases. Do you get it? They are humans. They have their own biases. And so it can work against you. So you are better off if you're not ready to plead for time to go and change. Because you may have told the secretary that called you that, I'm in the market. Oh, come. No, because as soon as you show up, they'll be like, who is this? And your golden opportunity could just be lost out on you. So please, iron that dress so that all the effort you put in the CV is commensurate to how you're showing up. Because that impression will stick with them. When you leave the room, there's always a healthy chatter. Either full of laughter because we can just tell that, hey, this was a borrowed suit. Or we can say, this is someone really prepared for life. Look, I tell you honestly, there are times that candidates don't really make it. But the confidence with which they walked into the room, their responsiveness to the questions, the way they carry themselves, the etiquettes they exhibit, we take an investment ditch on them and we decide to train them. So they may not be the best, but we'll just decide that you have just the characteristics that we can train. So we'll take you. So it is very important that you step up and step up well. It is extremely important. So please, I hope that I'm not sowing seeds by stones, but in fertile lands. We will call you in some organizations for assessment tests. If it's an international organization, expect to do some psychometric tests. Now, psychometric tests are designed such that they only want to test your intelligence and your ability to reason together. So sometimes they'll put triangles and mix it with squares and ask you to tell a story from it. Already you are panicking. But it's the easiest thing to do. If you are targeting South Africa companies, US companies, be ready for it. Be ready for it because psychometric tests are done so they can select the best candidates that fits their space. Some of the tests you do in psychometry as well tells us the kind of leader you are, because it would derive from very simple, unintentional questions like, do you like gardening or carpentry? Do you like cycling or running around? Would you rather have a vibe with your friends or sit reading? They sound so simple, and so you will be choosing yes, no, but it's able to deduce your character, your true character. It will tell. It's unfortunate here in Ghana we are not exposed to doing a lot of things before our age. Otherwise, you would, if you were in US, for example, you would have taken the Beckman test. The Beckman test was designed by the military, a man who was in the military, a general. It's able to tell you to the very last detail, even what course you were supposed to have been pursuing whilst here. You can imagine the African child's look of horror when we did the test and then we are seeing, hey, you've wasted all the years. Because what it was telling, it chooses the first 5 careers that you would have excelled at that nobody could have touched you. Because it derives everything from your skill set, including your genealogical, simulations. And so a lot of the advanced countries, from scratch, a child is already positioned in those spaces. In Korea and what have you, you'll see that some of the kids are being brought up in construction. And they are 3-4 years because they've taken most of these psychometric tests. So get ready, because a lot of organizations are going to ask you to take it. What it does is to tell us whether you're a good team player, the English you wrote on your thing. That tool can tell us. It can tell us whether you're a devourer. Now, there are people that when they're in the room, nobody speaks. Their opinion is the only thing that matters. They speak over everybody. They don't give room to anybody to grow. If the organization has the culture of allowing everyone to speak and engage, you won't be their candidate, because that test has sieved you out. So that's also a part of how we select the people. So you've given us your CV and what you think is nice and flashy. But now the psychometric tools would also sieve out the true you. There are some of them which are free. So please, when you leave here, take a moment and check. You can't manipulate the questions. It will still sieve you out. That's just how it is. These are certified programs. They've run them over and over again. So it will tell the true characteristics that you have. It helps you shape your understanding. It would start to build a character in you. So please, when you leave, check it out. There are lots of them, free versions. But start using them so you are conversant with it. Otherwise, you struggle because they are time-bound. So you are allowed to take these tests at home, unsupervised, by humans. But you are supervised by the app. So as soon as you log in your details and all of that, the timing starts. So when the time is up, it closes the file. It goes straight into the employer's portal. You can't do anything about it. So that's bit of your CV that says I can work unsupervised. That's the true test of it. And it will tell us exactly who you are. So please take the moment, learn about that, because that's part of how we screen you beyond your CV. I have already mentioned to you about the automated systems that we are using to select candidates, the ATS. Now, the ATS works around key matrix, parameters, and requirements. These key matrix are always derived from the job description. So please, I'm repeating this because we can talk about all the flashy things between today and the next 3 days in this career fair. But if you don't get this part right, you're not getting the job. No matter how smart, intelligent, affable you are, you're not getting the job. So please make sure whatever adverts you see, copy the JD, paste it there, and start to tell your story of how you fit into it. Do not lie. You're better off at the interview table telling the people, I don't already have this skill set, but I am a very fast learner and I'm very motivated to learn. Given the opportunity, I would put in the extra effort, the extra work to learn, because I am really bent on making sure that I get the job done. That rather appeals to the empathy side of the panel than when we are asking you and we can clearly tell that you lied. Nobody wants to work with a liar. Organizations are stressed out already with thieves and what have you. We don't want to be adding new ones. It's not Alibaba and the 40 thieves that we are running. So please, make sure that you pick the key details. If your CV is not professional, just know that it gets shredded. It gets shredded. Because we can't keep them. There won't be space. We'll be paying warehouses to keep CVs. So what we do, and I'm telling you the truth, is that we get a data analyst. They pick some key details, your name, what the school you attended, and then a few skills. We put it in an Excel sheet. We shred the document. Even those that are sent soft, nobody has the kind of gigabytes required. Our clouds are already full with our office documents and we are paying for space. We don't want to take that chance on somebody who is not contributing to the organization. So after a while, we press the delete button and it's off. Because these are not confidential documents that we need to defend ourselves in court. So we just delete them. We shred, we delete, we shred, we delete. Don't be deceived. That's just what we do. We shred, we delete, we shred, we delete. Because we can't afford to pay for those spaces. Keeping data comes with a lot of requirements. There's data privacy, you know. So nobody wants to take that chance. So if it's not as professional as we want it, forget. It's already thrown away before we even wanted to breathe. Now I'm just going to run quickly through this because I believe that my time will soon be up. Now, as recruiters, we have a focus, and I believe that tomorrow you'd have some more insights from your other sessions. We want to identify some key standards that align with the job position that we've advertised. So here, we want to assess the qualification, the technical, the soft skills. We want to look at the experience. We want to be able to see the cultural fit of the person that's coming in. There are places today that if you went in and you had, let's say, locks on as a guy, depending on who is sitting at the table, it could become dicey. And these are things we've been trying to migrate from, but it will take a while. It will take a while, and then corporate Ghana will be at the free level. Now, there are places that we're expecting that when you're showing up and you're telling me you are the creative lead, I'm expecting some abnormality around you. A very good abnormality, which is that if you see all the people in our space, the guys have locks on, they have braids on. Otherwise, the person feels slightly out of touch. It's not to say we don't take the pastors. We do. There are funky pastors out there. It's not to say that we won't take the good boy Paul. We will. But you need to look the part. Because there are some jobs that if you're doing, I recall very well that we engaged someone and we wanted him to be a senior accounts manager for an alcoholic brand we were channeling. And throughout the interview, he kept saying that he cannot do that kind of job. Clearly, we knew that we would be misplacing the person because his affiliations cannot align. No one was asking him to drink because as part of the rules, you're not even supposed to. But clearly, he wasn't comfortable with it. So you spare that person. So you need to be careful how you show up in the respective places because it does make sense. We're not looking for overblown, crazy looks either. So you need to do a lot of research about the organization you're going to and make sure you align. I tell you honestly that I went for an interview a couple of years ago at EDC, EcoBank Development Corporation. I got the notice very late, but I was dressed professional. In the bank, you always, long sleeves and all of that. So I went. We're just about 6, if my mind serves me right. And we had exchanged pleasantries. We were all sitting and waiting. Then one of the ladies who was also waiting, she just came to me and whispered, "Did you not know where you were coming to?" I was like, I know, I'm here. She was like, "But you're not in blue." I was like, Then it occurred to me to look around. Everyone was in blue except me. I was the only chorister, white and black. I was like, She was like, "Yeah, but this is EDC. EDC, you have to wear their colors." I was like, "Oh, sir." And it was a missed opportunity because it was asked, actually. I was asked if I had researched the company. It was a very last minute gig. So I just went in, giddy, giddy, giddy. But I was asked. Because every single person out of the 6 of us, they were all dressed complying. And one of the ladies, "Oh, you look very professional, but would have expected you to be in the color." Ladies and gentlemen, when you join organizations, you would see that even organizations have font sizes they work with. That is how strict and pertinent we get. So you can't even send an email with just your own kind of font. It's not acceptable. So please, please, please research the company. Make sure that you have that detail. Pay attention to all the red flags, such as the gaps in your employment. Some of you will find jobs easily. Others would have to wait a while. Whilst you wait, please take advantage of doing certain things. There are a lot of free online courses. So that within that period when you sit in front of the employer and you don't have a job to say, you can say that within this period, I did Google ads this, I did social media this, so that it feeds into that gap. So So we see that you were not idle. You actually made optimum use of your time. Also prepare a list of questions that you think can be asked and rehearse in front of your mirror. If you don't have a mirror, please buy one. Your mirror is your best audience when you are trying to build your confidence. So you put your CV right there and you start to speak to it, looking at yourself. This helps you prepare your facial expressions. It helps you build the confidence and also get in tune with the details you've put in the CV. Because in every interview, they would ask you, at your level, the first question is, tell me about yourself. The myself is in your CV. But you cannot tell the recruiter that, as it is in the CV that you have read, shall we go on? You can't say that. So it would be to say all the things that you feel have been stated that are relevant, because it's a very short window as well that you're expected to have an elevator pitch to sell yourself. So best start from home. Let them think you are crazy, but start from home. Stand in front of the mirror, put the CV there, start to speak to it. The things that don't make sense to you, as you spoke to yourself, you clearly know these are things you need to correct ASAP. So please take that mirror moment seriously and start working on it. Sometimes put your siblings together. Put them together, your friends, put them together and start to speak to them as though they were a panel. It builds and boosts confidence in you, because what happens as well is, whilst you are sitting in front of that panel, the moments you had with Fidelia correcting you, with Alex saying something, it's able to calm your nerves and you're able to deliver. So please make sure that you spend some time in there. For behavioral technique interviews, we assess the candidate based on past performances and achievements and things you've done. There are different types of interviews. But for behavioral ones, we want to see things that you've done. So all the things you stated in your achievements column in your CV, this is where you tell the story. Because we want to see if you're able to solve a problem. We want to see how innovative you were and how you actually came to life. So if you're able to run these simulations in your mind, you'll be able to craft that CV with ease. So please take it serious as well. And then once we've done all of that and done our background checks, we just go and we select. Now this is quick. For you to prepare for your interview, when you go onto the internet, you find 1,001 things. What works for Akosia may not work for you, Delali. So you need to find your spoke. You need to understand what it is that you need to do. But key, you must research the organization that has received your CV. Because in my space, when we say account manager, we're not talking about someone that has done accountancy. We're not. So we put adverts out there and a lot of HND accounting, BSc accounting, they would apply for. The system just rejects it. And even when it picks it, we look at it and we throw it out. We clearly know you don't know the organization. Accounts managers in event spaces are relationship and client-facing managers. They are business development managers. But you won't find that title. So when you don't do the research, there may be an advert that you are qualified for. But because you don't know how they term that role, you won't even apply for it. So it's important that you research organizations so you know exactly how they craft things in their spaces. In the banks, they say relationship manager. In some banks, a relationship manager is someone who is also monitoring the banking hall. So you need to understand. In some places, it is that person acquiring clients, servicing the clients. So please do some research around organizations that you are sending the CV to. Because in some places, the organogram is such that even the security man is more powerful than another organization's MD. Oh, you don't believe so? There are institutions in this country. A security man's salary is more than an entry person's salary in another. I'm not kidding you. It is a reality. So you need to check. You need to check. In some institutions, roles are not the fussy bit. So you may go for an interview and you may have some cultural moments. In most of the international banks, the MDs and what have you, everybody is first name basis. So if you are carrying your title ching, you may go then, instead of doctor, someone is saying, Akwesibo, and you will be offended. But in that institution, that is a culture. Everybody is on first name basis. For the longest of time I worked in Barclays, our MD, it was either Margaret or Bendy. That was just it, But you can get offended if you feel you are senior pastor of Apostolic Church and you are interviewing and they are just calling you Echo is but you didn't see what I wrote on my CV. You could be offended for nothing. So please. I've already mentioned, practice your answers. Do your mirror moments. Dress appropriately. Please arrive early. If we were employing people today, which I'm hoping Jobberman will do, a lot of you won't make the cut today. Because a lot of you were late. Your lecturers were frustrated. You were so late. Some, we had indications that they had to attend lectures and all of that. But some others too, we all know. You were just gallivanting in the hostel and then somebody had to come and drag you out. Please. It is important that when you send the CV and you get that call, please take a moment and go and look for the organization. Go and look for it before your interview date. It may cost you some 20 or 50 Ghana cedis. But what that will do is to save you on the day so you are not late. So you are not turning up all sweaty and all messed up. Because in Ghana, people would always tell you, oh, just here, just a fiako. When they say just a fiako, you could be working for the next 30 minutes. I had a very horrific moment in those my early days after school. We were working with OBTV and we had been asked to go to Casa Preco. We booked the appointment. It took us forever. We got the appointment to the marketing director. None of us went to check where Casa Preco was. We just knew it was on the Spintex Road. We took a vehicle, got off at the junction. The conductor of the bus helped us. And then we asked someone who was just roasting, corn. And she was like, oh, people. Those of you who know Coca-Cola runabout, we walked. Whilst we were approaching at some point we even gave up, but whilst we were approaching the organization, vehicles were just passing and we're having dust all over. One of such vehicles that, honest to God, we cursed. It was a Prado. Everybody was just all over. We got to the organization and the security man was like, oh my goodness, you just missed him. I was like, who? He said, but didn't you see the Prado? The director is gone. He is traveling. He made time for you. We were late by 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. People don't joke with time. 5 minutes. And that's how we lost the opportunity to have Casa Preco to sponsor our gig. 5 minutes. You would think it's a joke. I lived it. By the time we got to the gate, we ourselves, we knew that we didn't want to go into the meeting. Our hair was all manner of things. Our shoe. Hey! You don't want to see the shoe. Because we walked on an untarred road. By the time we got there, all black was brown. It was Mr. Brown and Sons showing up. Our confidence level had just dropped to minus. You know how it is like. You yourself, you don't feel yourself. So even if we had the opportunity to sit in front of the man, I am certain that we wouldn't have convinced him. Because we had given up. Between we being sweaty, tired, frustrated, and angry for the car that bypassed us. We were late. 5 minutes. That's all it took. If we had even sent one person amongst us the day before to just go and find it, would have been in a better place. Do not rely on Google. It will take you to someone's bathroom. Take a turn, left, right, forward. By the time you see it's a dead end, you don't even know where to start from. By the time you navigate the left, right, here and there, you are late. That other candidate that's not as qualified as you gets the job because first impressions count. You probably are always on time. but just that moment, you lost the bid. Always, if for some genuine reason you are late, call in, explain your circumstances whilst you still commute. Ask to be rescheduled if possible, or ask to be a bit late due to a genuine circumstance. You're better off reaching out 30 minutes earlier. 30 minutes earlier, so that they don't have the MD seated and waiting for you, because the MD will see that as disrespectful and may not want FaceTime with you. But the organization will see it respectful if for very genuine reason. Please don't say traffic. Recruiters have gotten to that point where they think people who say traffic are irresponsible, because you know where you are commuting from. We assume you know where the company is, so you should know your travel time and give yourself an allowance of not less than 30 minutes, so that even if yawa happens within that 30 minutes, you can still find your way. So please, please, please be minded to always be on time. Also know that there are advantages to arriving on time. Do you know what happens? Within that period, you hear office gossip. You also see the culture that permeates in that organization. It's not just the organization that is assessing you. You also have the right to assess the organization. I've been to places I was interviewed, on phone, asked to show up. And when I sat at the lobby, I straight away knew that this is not a place I want to be. Because I saw the interactions between the staff. You could tell the toxicity from there. You could see how off-handed people were, and how people were just moving in and out without focus and what have you. Straight away I knew this is not for me. So I also checked out. I've had places I was invited. I'll show up on time and I'll wait. But I would go and excuse myself as well if I think that I don't want to take the interview at all. Because I don't want to waste your time either. You understand? So it's not just the organization that's assessing you. You are also taking opportunity to assess what is going on there. As well, people who may want to give you some protocol shoulder, that is when you meet them. That is when you meet them. Because if you are just early and you were seated at the lobby, that classmate of yours that you have a very good vibe with, that works there and you don't know, may just be passing. Agatha. Oh, actually, they come interview. I know they sit up. Oh, chill, make her give you a pot. Back, no, I text you. So before you enter, leverage or understanding. Do you get it? Life works in a certain way, and it blesses people who take intentional efforts. So please be ahead of yourself. Be ahead of yourself. I remember very well classically when I interviewed for the second phase of Barclays. As we sat, we were very near to the HR department, and the staff were just going in and out, and they had some training. They called it LMS. And they were trying to explain to each other. It rubbed off on us. Because we paid attention. You know how it is when you are somewhere, you are nervous and you are tensed. You can hear even when a pin falls. So we heard everything, including some people who were being interviewed. Because that's how close we were, like paying attention. So before we went in, we had an advantage. Fair or unfair, it was still an advantage we had. And it worked to our favor. But you can only have this if you show up early. You can only have this if you show up early. So please, take the opportunity, show up early. You've seen a lot of videos lately of maybe a CEO posing as a messenger or a security person trying to offend you and all of that. Please be guided, because you don't know what kind of role play they have to select their candidates. So even if someone is trying to annoy you, Charlie, chill. Just tell yourself, only today I will allow you to do this. Only today. Just keep repeating it. Only today I will allow you to do this. Beyond this, like they say, when we close from church, you see what I'll do to you. So please be guided whilst you craft your CV and show up in these places. Bring a copy of your CV. Bring a copy of your CV. At some point in that interview, they may refer to something you probably would have forgotten. You are permitted to quickly refer and speak to it. But if you don't have it with you, you'll just be fumbling all over. they would think at that point that everything in there is probably falsified. You don't want people riding on their biases and perception to judge you. So please take a copy of your CV. After everything else, please follow up. Ensure to follow up. As I shared with you earlier, my experience with backlist. Follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. Otherwise, someone will forget that you actually applied for the role. Yeah. Now, there are some etiquettes that we expect that you show up with in the room. You must listen carefully to every question that is coming. There are different types of interviews. Based on your CV, you could be given a stress interview. You could be given fact-finding interview. You could be given structured interview and different types of interviews. Now, when you're in a stress interview, read the signs and prepare yourself properly. Because in stress interviews, someone is going to be picking something you've put in your achievement, pair it with when you actually had some educational certificate, and start to query you from there. It is just to see how you react under pressure. It is also to judge your character. So if you are telling us you're a very patient person, that is when we check. So some people can intentionally just be on one thing, trying to stress your button till you're like, are they? You know, it's a stress interview. Because, for example, if they want to take you for a call center, they know people are going to be calling you with all manner of descriptions. Do you have what it takes beyond your CV to tolerate people? So they do those ones as well. The fact-finding ones are the ones that you've told us all the measurable things. I did this, achieved 70%, did this. Now we will give simulations. There are interviews you will attend. We will project a worksheet for you. Especially when it says you have numerical capacity. We will project, if you're an accountant, you could have a balance sheet staring right at you. We would ask you to extract your P&L and balance the sheets right there. We will. There are interviews that when people show up, the creatives, when they show us their portfolio of works, we project a client's problem, what we call brief. And then we ask them to model out for us. You know, my previous organization before this one, we did a lot of interior, Trasaco. So right there and there, we've set up a computer already before you enter the room. So we ask you to model a room. But you said that's your skill. We ask you to model it. Sometimes we ask you, what's your quickest speed in terms of typing? You give us the speed. We just project a document in front of you and we ask you to type it out. And whilst you're typing, we've splitted the screen so it's showing with all the errors you're doing and what have you. We have a good laugh and we see whether you're qualified or not. And that's why I'm telling you to rehearse the things you've put in there. People say I'm a social media geek. So right there and then we start to ask you, how many followers do you think we have on our Instagram page, on our Facebook page? You're a gig, you should know. You're a gig. If you really want to work with us, then you should know. We start to ask you what algorithms you think we use for our SEO. We'll be asking you. Yes, because it's a practical demonstration. So it's not just what's your name, which school did you go to, and you're done. There are practical aspects you need to live up to. So please, all the things you intend to put in the CV and the ones you put there, start rehearsing them because you just don't know which room you'll be walking into. There are times that we are taking salespeople and they tell us, I'm a good negotiator because it's on the CV. So then right there from the panel, we select somebody and we ask you to sell to the person, negotiate. If you are into furniture, you must be able to sell. It's not English, it's not talk. Live it. So right then you'll be asked, I've entered. I'm a prospective client. Cross-sell to me. So please, those little things you are doing in the lecture hall, it's very important because it will follow you through and through. So depending on what organization you are going to, you may have a different type of interview. Be ready for whatever type you are exposed to. Please show authenticity and show enthusiasm. If you need a break to catch your breath, to compose yourself, politely ask for it. You are better off breathing in, breathing out, and delivering. Because at the end, you are now that owner of the signboard you shared with us in your CV. And you must speak to the things and live out those things. Who better to project your CV than yourself? So if you are sitting in front of us and you cannot speak to it, it rules you out. Show some enthusiasm about the organization and why you are there. Before you go for any interview, ladies and gentlemen, turn off your phones. Do not get in there and get distracted. When your phone rings in that room, some people would deem it as disrespectful, unprofessional. You lose them out right there. When they have to score you, they forget all the good things you said. They just rule you out of the game. So please, if you don't have a medical crisis waiting for you, just put it off. Because as well, even when it's on vibration and it's doing what, you see that your mind is all over. Already you are tensed. Then it's also doing what it's doing. Your confidence will just drive out the door. So please, turn it off if you can within that moment. Please, when they ask a question from the CV or anywhere else and you don't have clarity, do not be shy. Please, can you come again? Please, may I reiterate what you said just so I can ascertain if I have understanding of what you are asking me. Look, people see intelligence in that. Then you imagining that the question was for ABC and then you start to talk and everybody's like, are you serious? Because we're going to have you face our clients. If you can't listen, understand, and speak to, we fear that you may risk the organization. So you're better off asking that somebody repeats themselves. You're better off asking for explanation. You're better off asking if they use jargons to say that, well, sir, I'm not espoused to these technical languages. Perhaps I do know what you're talking about, but I may know it in a different form. Can you please explain to me? Like they do on spelling bee. Those of you who are spelling bee, the kids, they ask, can you tell me the origin of the word, the roots? They will say Latin, verbum, this. It gives you clear perspective and then you can now speak to it. You are better off taking a moment and looking intelligent than speaking too quickly and being a fool in the room. Please be guided. Take a moment and sound intelligent than speaking quickly and being a fool in the room. Also, please make sure you smile. Some of you can't be Shaka Zulu. Please smile, smile, smile. Because you know, smile has a way of influencing people and just warming people. Someone could be so, a panelist could be all gigged up and trying to drill the hell out of you. But when they see that you are just smiling and you have a sweet demeanor, it will just tone them down. That race they want to go with you, they will just calm down. Some would even ask, but why are you smiling? Because they know it's having an effect on them. But why are you smiling? Why? I'm like, oh, no, I'm just elated to be here. Okay, all right. And you see that the room just calms down. Interviews, in essence, really, are just supposed to be dialogue, interactive sessions. But sometimes we make it like a prison ward where you're answering death and life sentence, So please, smile. It will chill them down, okay? So make sure that whilst you're even trying to look on your CV, you're smiling. Let them ask you why. And if it's a behavioral question, it's your good opportunity to say, I just recall a moment when I really had to lead a team of friends, and my God, the stress they gave me. Just recounting it brings nostalgia, and I'm just reliving it all. Straight away, they know that what you put there, it wasn't just somebody's story. It is your story. It's authentic. Because at that moment, that reflex action that came from you is sweet. It infects the room. It positions you right. And as I'm saying, You may not be the best candidate, but the job will be given to you. Because we know when we do interviews that we don't always select the most ideal candidates. Someone may have all the grades, the certificates we're looking for, but they may not have the persona to handle the system, the team, the people. So we always look for other things as well that places you a head start, in front of others. In the past, and I don't know now, Unilever Ghana used to do what they call the fraternization. So after the CV and everything, when they bring you together, they just send you to a hotel. Then they put a buffet there. Oh, everybody, midu, mundidi. Oh, didi, oh, do. And people just overindulge. They just eat. Some people just take a plate, and when you see what they've put on it, you would think it was Abel's sacrifice to God. From cow to everything is on. Little did they know that Unilever was using that to select the right leaders. Now, as a true leader, you are the last to want to feed yourself. So if we're looking for a true team leader, that was the elimination criteria. Because the food there may look enough, but it needs to go around everyone. If you took all, what happens to your colleagues? So that was a practical way of selecting and sieving through leadership. We knew clearly who was not cut out for it. They would check, see even what it is people had on their plate. Is this someone who is conscious of health? Someone who understands balanced diet? Someone who is willing to share? Whilst we ate, some people will be so fixated on their plates, such that someone would ask, can you pass the sauce? They want to chew the meat before they do. The organizational psychologist feels that that is someone that cannot lead a team charging into Africa. Yes, they are very subtle, simple, soft things, but they speak volumes of who you really are. At that moment where there are 15 people, but they intentionally will bring 12 bottles of water, the scene who is sacrificing a bottle at the very last minute for the next person. There are times they did run simulations, and we did that a lot in Trasaco as well. When people come, we just leave them in the room, total strangers. We want to see how they can bond. So we ask you to discuss just about anything. We start to see people with like preferences. We start to choose. Because we need people that can function in the space we're asking for. If you feel supervised, you can live a false moment. When you're not supervised, you live you. So if you're telling me you can interact with clients and you can easily bond with them, you had 10 people in the room. Were you able to do that? That is where we start to select from. Because maybe Albert said hello to you. We couldn't see any enthusiasm from you, even trying to connect at that level. How do I send you to prospect for business then? It means you will struggle. It's not your natural bit. So even if I take you, it means I have to train you to be able to gain that. So it helps the organization to understand what it is they are bringing on board and what kind of support to give. They check. Sometimes you'll be thrown into the array of current news. Because those in marketing, we need people who are apt, people who know what's going on in social spaces. There are people we've interviewed and we would ask them, do you know about the BSB Festival for Guinness? If they don't, you straight away know that they will struggle with the brand. So you don't even bring them on board. It may be crude, but this is a reality of corporate Ghana. And I'm telling you just as it is. So read, listen, pay attention. When I was here in Ho Technical, I had a real opportunity then of meeting the late Professor Ivan Sata-Mills. We launched the whole the Adaunazu Kekeli magazine after he had been banned for 10 years. Prof had chanced on us during our SRC celebration, and he decided to endorse the magazine after taking a quick read. After that particular event, he decided to sponsor my education at Frederick Egbert Foundation. I got that opportunity right here in Ho Technical. We said Ho Poly, right here. Because I was given a moment to speak as the senior editor, and I made an impression on him. Face down, before I got that course, that morning when I was going for that interview, I wasn't politically inclined. I didn't know what to expect. His aide called me and said, pay attention to all the current news that's going on. Fortunately for me, and I think it was divine providence, I sat in the trotro, and for the first time they were listening to BBC News. You will be amazed. But yes, in that trotro they were talking about Sir Johnson Sirleaf, all manner of things that were happening in Ivory Coast and all of that. I just paid attention, listened. Can you imagine that when I stepped into the room with all the German ambassadors and what have you, the questions they were asking me, the first 10 questions I was asked were all from the Trotro trip I took. They were all from the Trotro trip I took. So you may even think that there are people fighting in the Trotro. Perhaps when you get to the table, the question you'll be asked is, how do you resolve conflict amongst teammates? If you saw how the mates resolved it, you probably have an answer for the panel. If I had not paid attention to that current news at that time, there's no way I would have passed that interview. You know why? The interview was to select political people, like people who were really, so most of the people that came were so many. The people that came were political attaches, youth organizer, and what have you. Prof said to me, I know you are none of that, but I see something, so I want to harness it. So he pushed me into it. So if they were asking how to organize grassroots, and me answer, because I didn't know. But what I knew got me to be the first to be selected among 15 people given the special scholarship to study. That is how important, very simple things. At the time, even I didn't think it made sense. But later on, I benefited from it. So please, whilst you go into that space, just try, read wide, get into the DNA of the organization. I have had a real opportunity where I actually employed a young man without wasting time. Ebo Hansen. Ebo Hansen showed up at the interview table having dug into our social media pages. And he had written a dossier around what he saw, what he thought we should have been harnessing and promoting, the tools he thought we needed to use. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't waste time. I haven't even paid you salary. You are giving me solutions. Director, come and do the job and let's go. Yeah. He told me clearly he had researched into the DNA of my organization. So he understood already where I was heading. He had solutions. Most of the things he was proposing, we already had them and they were work in progress. But the fact that without any motivation, without any pay whatsoever, he could do that, it was enough to give him that opportunity. So we did. And he turned out to be a fine asset that we recruited. So please, when you have that opportunity and you've shared your CV with us, the next level, go into the DNA of the organization. Show up at the table with some facts that will make a difference between you and the next person. Because Clara coming to the table as well, she's got thoughts. She has the same CGPA you have. She has all the internships you've done. What makes you different from Clara? It has to be that ish factor. He showed up with a document and they sold him off straight away. We cut the whole interview process. We didn't do the third, fourth, no. Straight away. That was our candidate. We knew we could train him, we could groom him. We were off on a good start. Now, please just make sure that you also go onto the LinkedIn page and sniff out for possible people that work in that space. As you go along, there are other things you may want to do, other places you may want to go and work in. Whilst you wait your turn, Sniff on the LinkedIn, see which people work in those places, and start to send meaningful connection requests to them. Now, what that does is that before that time you ever step in there, you've already bonded with people who will give you a clear direction of how people are selected for roles in that organization. You would even have them be the ones to tell you about the possible vacancies that are there, because now they are your connection. So you tell them, I'm open to work. They're like, there's this possibility with us. Try it. They give you the guidance you need without paying for. So please, spend some time there. It's a tool. Don't go and be sending people, I love you, I think you are beautiful. It's not Facebook. It's a professional platform. So reach out to people and say, I have seen what you've done. I would love the possibility to learn from you. I am in A, B, C, and D space. If you're willing, would you want to give me some support? And then you build that relationship. It will open the next door for you. It is very key. Now, also research the board and its members. Research the board and its members. I have had the occasion of sitting in an interview, SIC Live. And like all interviews, I assumed I was going to meet the HR and the hiring manager and maybe a few consultants. But in that interview was the board chair, the secretary to the board. All the people that mattered on the board were seated with the HR, who was a consultant. I sat down, I looked at them. I knew I had seen them all because I had gone onto their page to check. So then the board chair just took a moment. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start. Can you please tell me who I am? If I had not just, and I tell you, it was just a nick of time. If I had just not gone there to see, imagine what embarrassment that would have been. Because I would have just been there clueless. And how do you work for an organization if you don't know the leadership? Then it means you are just looking for a job. You are not ready to impact the organization. At that moment, if I just didn't know his name, I am sure that for the rest of that interview, because it was a very first question, they'll probably shut down. You know how people shut down mentally on you? After that, everything else you are saying is not relevant to them. So please, go onto the website. Almost all organizations have their board members, their pictures, so that even when you step into the organization and it's a board chair that is opening the door for you, you cannot be tricked in any form. Because you've already seen his picture. So what trick can he possibly do? Because you know. So that the necessary natural courtesies that are in you, you accord it to the person. So please spend some time, research it, so that you have leverage over other people. As I said already, go ahead of yourself, answer all possible questions, prepare yourself, have your answers at your sleeve, and get ready. Ask for clarity on any unclear spots. Avoid negative criticisms of yourself or others. When you sit in front of a panel and they start to ask you, why are you leaving your organization? Or why are you choosing us over the competition? And you get into the negatives. They already know the kind of person you are. You're the kind of person that if something goes south in the organization, you do the blame game. You will not take responsibility. You will not take ownership. So that can also take you out. So though you didn't write it on your CV, it becomes the spoken CV right there in the room. So please be careful and be guided by it. Use real life examples to illustrate your point. Show your enthusiasm for the job. Show your enthusiasm for the job. We've had good moments where we were given jobs to do by clients only because of how we spoke passionately about it. The client was like, the way I was speaking there, you can do the job, you can do it. Sometimes you don't even have it figured out. But there's enthusiasm you are showing, it's enough to get you through the door. So please, make sure you do that. As you leave school, search for jobs online and in person. In person work is difficult. Some people will send 100 CVs before they land the first job. Others, within the first 10, you will land your job. Everybody has their own path, their own destiny. Do not give up on it. Just keep pushing. Be strategic. Look at the industries you want to work in. Look at the layouts they accept for your CV. Craft it to fit, and you'll definitely be able to get there. Attend job fairs, and I believe you've taken the first step. You are here already. As I wrap up, reach out to your networks, which are your colleagues and other people. You must always bear in mind that your network is your net worth. Your network is your net worth. The people you know, they impact you. Please don't wait and don't waste any more time. Start today. If you do not have a CV, start today. Get things together. Start pushing yourself and make sure that you can deliver. We've really gone a long mile. And I think that at this point, if you will permit me, I would bring my subject to a close. As my lecturer used to say, we cannot dissect the balls of wisdom in a single session. And so thank you very much for your audience. I hope I've been able to impact you. I am open for questions. They are kind. They say I should sit small.
Oh, I think we can appreciate better. Wow, that was comprehensive. It's like a balanced diet prepared before you with all the ingredients and all the values that you need in it. Thank you so much, Madam Facilitator. Yes. But just before we go for the questions. Yes, she has given us a lot of what we usually say apple. Is that also? Yes. And for those of us who cannot do away with food, the food aspect, at least that day, tell yourself that no, the food should be there so that the cameras will not pick whatever you don't want them to see. Okay, it's now time for open forum, and so I saw some of you writing, taking notes. So this is the time for you to ask questions. But please, let's ensure that the questions. Yes, so it's not only about questions, your impressions. For me, if you ask me, this presentation is like, you know how much people. Oh, okay, thank God it's back. And Madam Facilitator, please let me apologize once again for the disruptions in the. Technology is helping, but sometimes too, it can let you down. Yes. So, yeah, your comments, suggestions, and how you are feeling about the whole program. They are also welcome. Okay, so it's time for question. So you keep the question straight to the point, brief, so that we can take it up. Okay. I realized that when she was giving us examples about the interviews she attended, some people were like, hey, then this job market. So it's not all about, the lecture halls. So after that, the real competitive job market is something else. Yes. You can have all it takes, but then it takes just something small to take you there. So please let's be mindful. And we thank you so much. Yes. Okay, questions? Oh, I thought when I said questions time, I was going to see about 10 hands in the air. Don't be shy. The university has prepared and brought it down. So bring all the questions.
You want somebody to start first before you stand up, eh? Okay. All right, so probably let me ask a question for you, then you can come and start. Madam Facilitator, thank you very much for very insightful presentation. just after my national service, and I was looking for a job. Then I did some applications. Then a company called me, and are you Mr. Edem Honu? And I said yes. And then he said, you applied for a project assistant job with us, and I said yes. Then the next question was, how much do you want to take? And as novice as I was, I mentioned some huge amount. I never heard from him again. Please, what actually happened?
Yes, so clearly, most probably what happened is that you had not researched the organization, you had not researched their salary ranges, because for a lot of organizations, they have bandwidth that they work on, depending on the role. And so let's say in some organizations, an account entry person, maybe your entry salary is between 1,500 to 2,000. And they decide within the band the respective skill sets that you have to position you either at 1,500, 1,600, 1,700, or 2,000. And looking at your CV at the time and what you were mentioning, maybe even the MD of that organization was not taking that salary. And so where are we placing you? Because you are now coming into the organization. Our MD is taking 15,000, for example, and you're asking for 20,000. Are you now the board chair or the owner of the business? So that becomes an elimination criteria. Some recruiters are kind enough. They will tell you clearly what the role is paying. So then it guides you to make a choice. But in some instances, you don't get that opportunity. It is part of the reasons why I was saying that you need to befriend people who work in those spaces. So from an internal person, they can give you some heads up. They may not always know the fine details, but they would have some appreciable understanding in terms of the salary band that is being paid. So the very moment you are asked, you are able to... Today is our day with sound. So the very moment you are asked, you have some clarity in terms of what to ask for. You need to be able to scout widely and see what it is industry is paying. Otherwise, people start to think you are not serious-minded, you know. And except the organization really, really wants you, they will not want to engage further. When we really, really want a candidate, though they may be out of range, we can still ask to negotiate. So sometimes you'd hear from recruiters, is it negotiable? Because at that point, yes, we're interested in you, and maybe what you're asking for is beyond the band, but we think we can talk. So yeah, so that's why they didn't call you. You wanted a salary more than the MD of the organization. I don't know whether they were going to sack the MD to take you, but you won't hear from them again, yeah. And even when you attend interviews, they would ask you, so what do you want to be paid? It can make or break the tide. So you need to just know, and then you can answer it. Sometimes they have their own tied down rate, but they just want to pick your mind to see what it is that would make you happy. So that when we are negotiating in future, we could consider that as part of our negotiation points with the board. You get it? I hope I've answered you.
Thank you very much. Madam, I want to appreciate you so much for this. Okay, yeah, the sound is okay now. Yeah, please, I thank you very much for letting us in. Maybe our students, because they've not gotten there yet, they don't know what it means for this lecture. But those of us who have gone through it, we've been to 1 or 2 interviews, we really appreciate all that you've really, really told us. We really appreciate it. My question is, where you said sometimes they can push your emotions, and you should keep smiling. So you now, you've been pushed out, you can see the person is trying to annoy you, and I keep smiling. Wouldn't they think I'm faking it? Maybe they also want to see your threshold of anger. But you keep smiling and smile. Madam, you've been there. Don't you think they will think you are faking it? Hey, as for this person, there doesn't get angry. It's very rare. So how do we handle it, please?
Right. So, I mean, as recruiters and as consultants that sit and do stress interview, we know that everybody has a limit. We know you have a threshold within which you trip or trigger. However, it is how you handle yourself that matters to us. Now, you can actually have a very annoying client in front of you who is accusing you of not doing something right, even with their account or with their sales portfolio or transaction or what have you. Sometimes, even for us, event, strategy, and what, we have discussions, like very lengthy discussions with the client. So they'll give you what we call the brief. The brief is simply the problem scope of the organization. And as an agency, we will now go and sit down, do our research, and then come up with solutions for them in terms of how to market their brands, how to even bring products from international markets and all of that. A client can actually give you this brief. You would do all the creative works around it, run simulations, use what we call the JOT form. In fact, even go to town to solicit for views, record them, and then now come into the pitch. And you can actually start a presentation just for them to say, no, hold on, that's not what we discussed. You're like, what do you mean by that's not what we discussed? We shared contact reports. So contact reports is simply an information sheet where the client is supposed to tell you, yes, these are the things we discussed. And this individual must have written to you, oh, yes. But suddenly they are saying they know nothing about all of this, and they are really pushing your button. At that point, we're not trying to assess whether you can get angry. We're trying to assess how you handle your anger. Because at that point, everybody knows that the client is getting on your nerve. But your ability to still remain calm, level-headed, and still speak to the facts is what is going to make you different from the next person. Because our clients are those who have the money to give us. We've migrated from that space where we say the client is always right to the point where we say they carry the purse, whether we like it or not. And so how you handle that situation, that moment, tells it all. So you may not be smiling, but you may just be calm, just trying to understand, and then getting back into it. Where we teach techniques such as, you would say, if I understood correctly, permit me to say, if there's been a miscommunication, can we relook at it? So you are trying to renegotiate the conversation into a safe space where the temper, the turmoil can drop down to where we can be rational and reasonable in finding a common solution to the problem. And that is why they do these stress interviews, because if it's going to become a back and forth between you and the panelists, we clearly know what to expect for our clients. In fact, if we're not careful, for some of the clients, you may beat them up, because that's just how far they can actually. You know, some clients can really wake up all angry from home and just want to look for someone to vent on. You may be that unfortunate candidate. How you handle that is what we're trying to elicit within that simulation. You know, sometimes we even look out for people who breathe in and breathe out. It tells us that there are people who would refocus, look at the situation before they actually speak up. So it's a trick you need to learn. You understand? Sometimes someone is just at you, bum, 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 bum. Okay, I have understood. But may I please ask if we can look at it in this perspective? It makes a difference. It makes a difference. So we're not expecting that you would come without anger. We're expecting that you come with managed anger that can exercise decorum at all given circumstances. So I hope I've answered you, Esther. Today is International Sound Day for us, so please pardon us.
Okay, thank you very much, madam. Okay.
No, come on.
Okay, so for those of us who have questions, kindly come down so that we can follow in that order quickly. So that we didn't have to pass the microphone round. Okay.
Okay, please, I'm actually in level 100.
Okay.
I want to ask a question.
Yes, please.
Please, during the interview, and a question is being presented to you, and you don't understand, you don't know anything about the question, how best can you go about it so that they won't disqualify you? Thank you.
Right. So as I mentioned earlier on during my presentation, I said that anytime a question is asked to you and you are unclear about what the questioner seeks to get from you, nothing stops you from asking politely, "Sir, please can you come again? Sir, can you reiterate what you said? Or if I understood correctly, do you mean to ask what skill sets I have to solve conflict resolutions in this space?" So you take the person's question and throw back an interpretation of how you've understood them. And if that is not it, they would correct you right then. They don't say, "No, I'm not asking for that. I am asking you when you've actually had the opportunity to resolve a problem." So you see clearly now you get the question right. And that way you can answer appropriately. Do not take a question that you don't understand and attempt to answer it. You would make a fool out of yourself. And that moment cannot be recreated. So you won't have another opportunity to redeem yourself. Okay? Right.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Donovan Maglet. I would like to ask, you have applied for a job opportunity. The company contacts you for a psychometric test, that is aptitude test. But sometimes looking at the scenario or your personality or the field of which you are applying, some of the questions, you see it's not deemed to your field, but you have no options to that. And later on, you are asked for your CV for specific. They didn't specify the field they want, even though you might know this is your field, but they didn't specify the field you want. How do you see yourself fit for that job opportunity?
Okay, thank you. It will be very, very rare that an employer would want to seek candidates and not put the role out there. It's extremely rare, because every vacancy is a role. It's either the person has left the organization or we're creating a new role. And so there's always going to be that opportunity to be told exactly what it is they intend to have you do. However, for entry levels, in some instances, we just take people on mass basis and then now start to position them in the organization. And so that's how come you can actually have done biochemistry, the bank will still employ you, because at that level, those are entry jobs. So then you are given the fair ground to compete, learn, and exhibit. So here, you are allowed to compete, learn, and exhibit. From that exhibition point is where now we start to focus your career in terms of what we think you are good at whilst in that organization. So yes, you may not be able to craft your CV at that point, especially if you don't know what it is. But it is extremely rare, because they would always put something out there, which is we are either recruiting fresh graduates as data entry people, as accounts managers, as relationship managers. So there's always going to be that inclination where they give you some understanding of what it is they need you to come and do. Even if you don't get that opportunity, at the interview level, you still have an opportunity to ask a fair question. That I did apply for a role in this organization. It was an open role. May I please know which role I'm being considered for?
No one is going to eat you up for asking a legitimate question, especially if we didn't put the role out there. I do know, for example, that sometimes the secret services will not tell you exactly where they will post you. For example, maybe you need to be on the narcotics side or child trafficking, domestic, and all of that. It's a very fair, legitimate moment to ask that, yes, I've brought myself. I want you to employ me, but may I please know which of the roles I'm being considered for, so you can speak, intelligently to it. So I believe that that should make it easy for you to engage at that level. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Kamasa Felix. My question is, after national service, then I apply for a job. Then the company is demanding for 6 years, 10 years experience. Meanwhile, you didn't engage me if I have all this experience. How do you intend knowing?
Felix, thank you very much. And this is a typical question we get, not even just from fresh graduates. Even when you've been in the workspace for a while, there are times that you would actually see a vacancy of interest, but the number of years they are asking for, you may not have it. There's a simple thing we've always been able to go back to, which is how you used your time whilst you were here. How you used your time whilst you were here. Now, I believe that your courses are between 3 to 4 years. So you've already had an appreciable moment to have experienced work if you took your internships seriously. All of the internships you did is equated to work. Because in most of these places, you spent a month, 2, 3, I think the longest you could perhaps do are the long vacs, right? So all of that is looked at as work experience for you. So from entry level, it's not as difficult as if you've already been in career. When you've already been in career, then justifying the 10 years is more difficult. Because then we are sticking strictly to the number of years you've worked. However, there are other aspects that we look at beyond the age capacity. One of the key reasons why employers ask for a number of years is because with a lot of jobs, the years give you the practical experience that you need to function. So we believe that if we're looking for, let's say, chief financial officer, there are so many aspects of finance you needed to have learned as you went along your career. And it is only the number of years that can actually feed into it to help you navigate all the problems. And so that's how come you see them always flagging those ones. In fact, even sometimes it goes beyond the years to ask you certain specific experiences and whether you've had them or not. There's one of the alumni who was standing for a country director for risk in one of the banks, and he was asked a question if he had had any bad deficits since he started his career. He thought he was being smart, so he quickly said, "Oh no." Adult said, "Oh no. He's very meticulous. He makes sure that it's always through and through." Do you know what he was told? The panel said to him, then he hasn't seen it all, so they cannot give him the role. You would have thought that he's saying that he's not had any such would rather work to his favor. But we know that the practicalities of that job is such that you would lose some. So if you've not lost any, then you are not the candidate. You understand? So that's how come sometimes we tend to look at age in terms of the years you've worked. But also, all the little things you've done along the way, it is equally validated and used as your experience level. So you don't need to worry too much about it. I think that even coming from Felix is not the biggest problem because, research has proven that when men see job adverts and they are 60% qualified, between 40 to 60% qualified, they apply. Women want to be 99% qualified before they apply. This is an international research. And so please, young women, do not be that woman whose story is being told in the research. If you have between 40 to 60% of what they are asking for, put it in. step up in that room with confidence, with the research that you have done. You can speak to it. It's not every day we're looking for someone who's done the job for so long. There are times we're looking for fresh breath of innovators, and that could just be you. So Felix, I'm not even as worried about you as I'm worried about the lady that didn't ask the question. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll take
Hello.
the last two. Please hold on. We'll take the last two questions and then.
Hello. Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Bless Abebio, and I'm a student of electricals and electronics engineering. And my question is relating to money aspect. The thing is that nowadays Ghana economy system is very hard. I like this. I know how to work and get money. I pay my own school fees. I pay my own hostel fee. And the question I'm trying to ask right now is, even without sending a CV, I earn like 3,000 and above a month. I take good care of myself and stuff. So the question I'm trying to ask is, if I'm trying to apply for a job and maybe the amount that they want to pay me is not sufficient for me, does it mean I have to reject it and look for another one?
Right. Okay, thank you so much, Bless. And it's a very valid question. It's an extremely valid question. So I think that one of the key things that we've been trying to do as a nation is to train more entrepreneurs. And these individuals are supposed to be able to provide work for themselves and recruit others. So people like Bless, we do need you to be able to employ others whilst you work as a consultant, if you can't find someone that is willing to pay you what you are expecting, for example. Now, with what you've spoken of, it means that you already have acquired certain skill sets, which puts you some miles ahead of an ordinary entry person. And so whilst you sit at that table, you need to be able to sell the skill set that you have to merit what you think is commensurate to your skills. And so that's how come we can actually employ two different people coming from the same institution, but they will be on different salary band. It is because whoever is able to project a skill set that is beyond the average gets that extra nod. And so that's why I keep saying that if you didn't take advantage of the moments to do your internship to learn something, whoever did, it could give them a notch ahead of you. You could be lucky. That institution is just trying to pick fresh people. So you get in there, you do your job. But more specific to you, Bless, it means that you need to look for that job that can actually afford you. Now, an electrical engineer in Gridco and an electrical engineer in Abebio and Sons, it's not the same. Abebio and Sons may not have the capital capacity to pay you beyond 3,000. It doesn't mean the job is any less. It simply means that what they churn out is not enough to pay Bless, let's say, 10,000. They can clearly tell that the kind of skill set you have, the kind of acumen you come to the table with is worth what you are asking for, but they may not have the financial muscle to pay you. There's another institution that clearly has the capacity to pay you and will definitely make that kind of offer for as long as you've sold yourself right to them. There are times that people, and I mentioned earlier, have had to take strategic decisions. So for example, you may weigh yourself and say that leaving school, I think my first job should pay me not less than 3,500. Flashpoints, you probably are going to be home for months whilst you scout because you may not readily find that employer that is willing to pay you. there are risks of taking a decision to stay at home. One of such is that you have to explain the employment gap you would have on your CV after that. There are people who've had to look at an institution, see the growth pattern, and they're like, okay, to make my life possible and great, it's 3-5 I need. However, the company is unwilling. After you've done all the research and you found out that they don't pay that, the company can only pay me 2,000 cedis. You can bite your pride. Take that job that moment. It goes onto your CV as working for that organization, and you can still continue to prospect. So whilst you continue to prospect, you definitely find that other institution that works for you, or whilst you are in that same organization, because of the dedication and the commitments that you are showing, you may just find the shine you need, your growth will be accelerated, and you may even end up blessed, earning more than what you originally even wanted from the organization. There's no cast in stone approach to life, but we just try to navigate through and through. So if you feel there are other things, so also you need to know, it's not just salary and organization pays that should attract you. The culture, the growth. So what development options are they offering you? There are places that every single course you need to take, they pay. They pay. Places like Ernst & Young, Diageo, Nestle, they pay for you. So whilst your friends are earning, let's say 4,000, but they have to pay for all their ACCA, their SIMA, and what have you, those individuals in those places, they are taking 2,000, but all their school fees is being paid for, the international school fees. You all know the dollar rates, right? It's all being paid for. When you sit down and you do a critical analysis, they are better off than you. You are taking an instant gratuity. They are taking graduated gratuity. And so you always need to look at what other benefits are also coming. Some places, they give you medical. It covers you, your spouse, your children. That's an add-on. Some places, they give you fuel allowance. So though the salary didn't capture your 500 cedis fuel allowance, it's given to you every month. Some places, they give you food. If you work in Accra and some places, food is quite expensive. And so if the organization is feeding you, if Bless has to spend, let's say, 600 Ghana cedis from his 3,000 on feeding, you are getting it for free. So that's 600, that's 600. When you add to your 2,000, it's 2,600. When you take the medical, when you go to hospitals now, some private hospital, consultation is 200. Now, if you have a card that's always taking you to the hospital and taking a dependent to the hospital without you paying, even if in a month you went to the hospital just twice, that's another 400, 600 coming. So that's how you actually sit down to do the analysis around the offer. Because sometimes the bulk will look attractive, but when you break it down to the very last bit, it's not as lucrative as you're thinking. So just take your time when the offer is made. Sell, push, but if you think that that's going to be the only factor to decide, you can always walk away. Okay? All right. Thank you, Bless.
Good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon. I'm Manuela from Hospitality Department. And my question here is that we have juicy job opportunities which are actually fixed for what you know how to do. But the only problem here is that they ask for languages that you can speak, like French, Spanish, and Chinese. Here lies the case, you only know the basics, but you can't actually speak fluently. Can you still apply for that particular job?
Exactly, you can. So what happens in some of these places, except they are requiring of you to be transcribing documents, you get the opportunity to actually speak to it. You are able to tell the recruiter that I have very basic appreciation of French. I am willing to take extra courses to get me better. I believe that languages are perfected when used. Now, I probably am not at grade B because I haven't had the opportunity to actually use it, and so that's how come I'm not fluent. However, I am dedicated to making sure that I take courses at Alliance Française, I take online courses, and you can match my progressiveness. I'm going to commit to it that in the next 6 months or so, I should be able to get to a grade A. You understand? So that the recruiter can see that, yes, Manuela doesn't have the full expanse of what we're looking for, but she's willing to make some efforts. There are some instances that you definitely will not get the job because perhaps the position they need you to work in is high level, so you need to be able to write emails to clients and all of that. But there are other instances where they can actually fuse you into the community, and because you already have the starting point and that zeal to learn, they know that with the right push, you would get there. So do not let it deter you. Still apply, get an opportunity at the table, and then you can explain yourself. Sometimes, if it's French or if it's Spanish, when you sit down, they'll start to interact with you in it. They'll start off, bonjour, ça va, and all of that. The basics you know, and then you can speak. When it's getting graduated, they're like, please, sir, I did indicate that I have very basic knowledge. I'm willing to learn. And then you just pick the conversation from there. As I said, look, interviews are supposed to be conversational points. It's just that we try to make it all scary, and so in your mind you think you cannot speak. But feel free to tell the people what you have, what you think you can do, given the opportunity and time. If I'd even tell them that I am committed to making sure that I can speak in the next, let's say, 6 months or 1 year. And so you can put that on my development plan and match me off. When that time comes and you haven't been able to answer, that when you start having the conversation again, whether to go home or to parler français. You understand? So Manuela, that would be my advice to you. You're okay. There are 2 hands down here. She's raised her hand. The lady down.
Thank you so much, madam.
Thank you.
Tungamak is my name, from electrical engineering. My question goes this way. You can't be going to an interview and then know the questions that will be asked over there. So assuming you get there and then you are being asked a question in which you have no idea about that question, do you have right to say you have no idea or not? Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Good afternoon. I am Constantina Itona, so I have 3 questions.
Okay.
I'll make it simple. So the first one, talking about the achievement session. I'm a student, level 200 ICT, so I would like to state my academic project work. Can I state my GitHub account where they can get access to their project? And the second one, some companies may be specific on the age limit. How best can I talk to them to convince them that though I am not yet there, I can best work for their company? And the last one, what's that one thing I can include in my CV that will make it impossible for the hiring manager to ignore me? Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Electrical Engineer, I'm not sure I call your name, but it is absolutely okay to tell the interviewer that you do not have any answers for what they seek. Now, part of the interview session is not expecting that you would know answers to every single question being asked. Because otherwise, then we also feel as though you had insider information. So we're not expecting that from question 1 to whatever it is, you have all the absolute answers for us. Absolutely not. You are better off being honest and saying that, I'm so sorry, I do not have the facts to this. I'm so sorry, I could not defend this. but given the opportunity, I think I can research better. No one is going to kill you because of that. You understand? Because you're an electrical engineer. If you were at the table and now we're asking you something about how many followers from the algorithms and all of that, I mean, nobody is expecting you to really have the answer. If you do, all the better. But if you don't, it shouldn't be held against you. So I think that will be the answer to your question. To a young lady as well, there are roles that, yes, are age specific, but I say that with caution as well, because in some countries, in some spaces, it is illegal to use age to disqualify a candidate. Especially in the US, there are enshrined rules that govern engagements. For example, there are questions that we are not permitted as panelists to ask even at interview. One of such is your age, your sexuality, your marital status. But here in Ghana, people just throw everything, including even asking you where you live. In other places in the world, and because some of you may find yourselves in the international market, it is a complete no-no to even ask a person how old they are at an interview, because it is deemed as creating biases which prevents you from taking an otherwise qualified candidate, because then you are going to be basing all your facts on one parameter instead of looking at a total candidate. Now, here in Ghana, we do not have like a very strict rule around it. However, if a job is really sticking its guns on age, there are some jobs such as chief director, some jobs like CEO of very large organizations. You may get an audience with them, but they may be tempted to say that the job requires a certain level of experience, and only age could have given you that experience. And so that is the only instance where it may take you off. However, you still have the opportunity to project yourself and sell yourself at the table. I tell you honestly, you may not be considered at that moment, even for the job, but it would open the next door to you. I've had to attend different interviews, and from those interviews, the consultants then now refer you to others, and they rather push for you to get jobs. The job I do today just came through that, you understand? So maybe there may be a parameter for which you will not get a particular job, but the impression you would make on the panel will carry you to your next job and the one after that. So don't be deterred by it. There are some times that they would necessarily stick to it. You won't even be able to do anything about it. There are instances as well that your age is going to work for you. I've had an occasion once when I interviewed for Access Pension. And when they saw me, I looked very young, so they thought, yes. But then the team, a lot of them were from outside grooming. Most of them were in their 18 to 22 maximum. At that point as well, they felt as though there would be a detachment between my generation and their generation. So there are times that when you are younger, it works for you. There are times when you are older, it works for you. In fact, the older you get, the worse it is. Because in a lot of spaces now, we have young people coming in, and you may not necessarily get the job. So do not worry yourself about your age. Pitch well, pitch strong, and if it's your job, you will get it. Now, what's that one thing you can tell the recruiter to select you? It is pretty much difficult to say the exact thing because every interview is unique and specific to what they are recruiting for. But I know one of the key things that we try to look out for are people who have been consistent in approach. Consistent. So anyone that can see growth which is consistent on the narrative you've written on your CV, considers you as a capable person that can come into the organization and influence change. So all the things you are doing, from social gatherings to church and what have you, those ones become the influencing parts for us. So there's no single sentence or statement that you can put there that as soon as we see, we are going to be like, yo, this is the person. No. But it's the complete coming together of everything you are selling in terms of you that sells you to us. So once you get the opportunity at the table, your job will be to sell how consistent and how open-minded you are. When you leave school, what we preach, you've learned. You have to relearn. And then you learn again. You understand? Then we see that, okay, you are open to new ideas. You are open to growth. You are open to innovation. You understand? So sitting in front of a recruiter and saying that I am willing to learn, relearn, and learn again. Any professional that understands that language knows exactly what you mean. And that could just be the card that you need to the next level. So thank you. I hope I've answered you. Okay. Are you yourself? Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Agbovi Kelvin Mawina, a top-up electrical engineering student. I want to ask that as a starter, how many pages, let's say a minimum page, should your CV meet? Because I remember one time I was applying for a remote job, and after I drafted my CV and sent it to one of my referees to go through, he told me I was too young to have this number of pages, so I should kindly reduce it. So I wanted to ask if there is a cutoff.
Yes.
Thank you.
So yes, there is a very subtle cutoff point that we always look at. And it's always based on the level of experience. Now, perhaps I do not know why the person is saying that for your age, but I think it has to, for us, our focus really is much more on what is in there in terms of content. And that's why I was asking that you deploy tools to summarize, because maybe the summary is not as concise as it has to be, and that's how come you have a lot of it. On some of the portals, you hear them say don't have more than 465 words. Some say don't have more than 500 words. I think in essence, as a beginner, nobody is expecting you to have more than 3 sheets for us to analyze. As a beginner, nobody is expecting you to have more than 3 sheets. As you progress, the sheets would increase. But interestingly, as you get to the apex of your career, the sheet becomes 1. At the prime levels, the CEO levels and what have you, the sheet becomes 1. So it's a very funny paradigm. From the beginning, we don't want you to have too much. In the middle of your career, we want you to have a maximum of 5 pages. And then when you get to the apex of your career, it's just a single sheet. So that's just how the CV system works. But that is not to say if you have information, don't put it there. Do put it there, but just look for the best ways that can capture what you are trying to put out there without using too much words, which are repetitions of themselves. Okay? Right. So thank you. I think that was our last. Okay.
Okay. We thank you very much for your questions. I hope you are all satisfied with the answers that were given. Yes. So the bigger job is now on you to go back, really look at your CV, and then structure it in a way that will give you whatever that you want. Thank you so much, Madam Facilitator. Yeah, but we are not ending it here. You know, there's another program tomorrow. Yes, so we'll continue from there. We've come to the end of the program, but before we go, let's invite our Director for Career Placement and Counseling to give us closing remarks.
Thank you, Victor. Let me use this opportunity to thank our distinguished resource person, Cynthia, for doing such a wonderful job to us today. We asked her to help us understand how to draft compelling CVs she's gone beyond that to also touch on how to go about interviewing, and that has been very helpful. Cynthia, we are so much grateful. I would also want to appreciate those of you who are here today for this CV writing workshop. The career fair opens tomorrow, and let me run you through the program for tomorrow. The opening ceremony would be at 9:30 a.m. at the auditorium here. The opening ceremony runs to about 11:30. So we are hoping that we'll do 2 hours in the auditorium for the opening ceremony. Then the exhibition, where we have invited some employers from industry. They would be basing at the basement. So when we close from the opening ceremony, then you would have the opportunity to interact with the employers that we have at the basement. We expect that from between 12 to 2:30 thereabout, you would have ample time to engage with all the employers that would be present tomorrow. Cynthia made mention that it's important for you to know the roles that you can apply for within each organization, because what one will call a particular role will differ from another organization. And so as somebody with electrical engineering background, you could ask the various organizations as an entry person, which role can I apply for, and all that. There are opportunities also for some of you to get national service placement or even employment, because the expectation is that some of these organizations would look at your CVs tomorrow and provide you opportunities that would enhance your futures. And so we anticipate that the numbers would be large. And so from the exhibition will be from 12 to around 2:30. Now from 2:30 to around 3:30, we have two workshops that would also go on. One would be at the basement here, and then the other would be at the amateur lab. Tomorrow during the opening ceremony, we would have shared those who would be going to the amateur lab and those who would be in the auditorium for the 2 sessions, because the sessions will run concurrently. Those who will be going to the amateur lab by 3:30, they would have finished, and then they will join us here at the auditorium, where we would have the closing session. You would also remember Cynthia was talking about the need for your aptitude and character, because most of the interviewing now is going beyond just the qualification sets and all that. So the workshops tomorrow are going to prepare you on some of the aptitudes and characters that are needed for the job market. There is one presentation that will be on networking skills and personal branding. Then we would also have another presentation on digital presence and job search skills. Digital presence and job search skills. Then we would also have another presentation on emotional intelligence and team building skills. All are built for tomorrow. We would provide refreshment and lunch throughout the period, and so snack and lunch throughout the period. And so when you come, just as you have comported yourself today throughout the period, we expect and hope that you do same tomorrow. The numbers are not encouraging, and so let's inform our colleagues to also come up tomorrow. And please, tomorrow all employers are coming, so let's be on time. The program starts at 9:30. Let's be on time. Let's be here by 9:30 a.m. tomorrow. Is that okay? All right, so what's going to happen this afternoon when we close the session? You can just sit down and take your lunch. When we close the session, we would have some facilitators. Five of them will be set up here. Those of you who have your CVs, you can bring it for them to look at it for you, to revise it with you, so that you can have very good CVs before tomorrow when you meet the employers. So let me go over that again. Just take your time and sit down and have your lunch here. When we close, there will be a team of resource persons here who have been sitting with us throughout the day. Then those of you who have your CVs, you bring your CVs to them to look at it for you individually, so that they help to revise and refine your CV for you. Would be here within the next 1 hour. So if you don't have yours, you can go and print it or prepare it and come for them to have a look at it for you. We will be sharing, with the permission of Madam, we will be sharing the template that she's used for all those who have registered. I'm sure you've all registered. We'll share it through the WhatsApp pages so that you can use to draft your CVs. So this program, the career fair, let me say that we are being supported by the Education Collaborative. The Education Collaborative is a project by Ashesi University, and they have been working so hard with higher educational institutions to improve employability of students of tertiary institutions in Ghana. And so we have, the Hotenka University have also benefited from the support from the Education Collaborative, and we are so much grateful for their support to be able to host this program and put this program together. Thank you all for coming, and we hope to see all of you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And please don't forget, tomorrow when you are coming, put on the voucher, like the Madam Facilitator said, the voucher kind of thing. So it goes with your dressing and everything. Okay. Before we go, one announcement here for you. Now, this is a notice. Confirmation of certificate photograph exercise for final year HND students. So all final year HND students are hereby informed that there will be confirmation of certificate photograph exercise towards the preparation of certificates. And this is scheduled for Tuesday, 13th August to Wednesday, 14th August, 2024, here at the auditorium. So please be informed. Yes. I think we also have it on the various notice boards, so you can go and then have a look at the details. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So
please, we want to take group pictures, so just stand up, and then the resource person will be here. The photographers will take a picture. Thank you. Cynthia, please, your indulgence.
Hello, please. You guys should fill the middle walkway.